with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and the chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda, identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please also keep yourself on mute unless and until called on by the chair. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members. I will now confirm which commission members are present. Chair Melissa Ricos.
Present.
Ed Harrow.
Present.
Jim Cirillo.
Present.
Matt Moyen.
Present.
Walter Garland. No, I was hoping he came in while I was reading. And I am Ted Barker Hook. I am present. I will now confirm staff that are present. Judy Day, Hopkinton Conservation Administrator.
Present.
Anna Rogers, Environmental and Inspectional Services Coordinator.
Present.
And Joe Orzel of Lucas Environmental.
Present.
Before I pass to Melissa, I'd like to let everyone know that we have 2 hearings on the night that have been continued. Those are Holmes at 37 Oakhurst and DeWolf at 47 Oakhurst. Both of those have been continued to the new year, January 6th, 2025. Got it.
Thanks, Ted.
You're welcome.
All right, that being said, we'll get started with our work session items. So draft minutes for review. We have minutes from August 5th, 2025. Does anyone have any comments on those minutes or have not had enough time to review them? No? All right, if that's the case, then I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, second, and all in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't present.
Oh, okay. Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
And I am also an aye. All right, thank you. Next up, we have 41 Front Street. This is a request for certificate of compliance. Judy, can you go over this and let us know your recommendation for where it stands?
Sure. Through the chair, this was an order of conditions issued in 2024 for an addition and a deck off of an existing house. So right here, work within the 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands, as well as within the 125-foot vernal pool habitat area. Comments from Lucas are fairly minor. So Joe said the site appears stable, erosion controls have been removed, all work done was within the approved limit of work. Joe had a note to add that the split rail fence shown on the as-built serves as the permanent immovable barrier. So they did add that note to the plan. And the only sort of discussion item, I believe, for the commission is of the 14 required tree plantings. All were done, but 3 of which were cultivars. I think there was a little bit of confusion with Weston Nurseries. So well-intentioned, but 3 of the 14 are technically cultivar species. And there are 9 additional non-native shrub plantings on the property that were done. So I think, Concom to discuss if you're satisfied with the plantings, given that there are cultivars and non-native shrubs. But otherwise, I think this is in a good position to approve the COC.
Okay, thanks, Judy. Joe, do you have anything to add from your review?
No, I think Judy covered it pretty well.
Okay. And do we have the homeowner on the line?
Through the chair,
Yes, Ed.
do I see a typographical error here? 125-foot fur from PVP, should that be buffer?
Probably. Although, I think the terminology for that line is 125-foot habitat. But yes. Thank you, Ed. That's correct. We can probably get that fixed pretty easy. Get some white out. My whiteout pen. Is the homeowner on the line?
Yes, I am. This is Sam Woodson.
Hi, Sam.
Hi.
Did you have anything to add?
I don't think so. We've done, I think, just about as much as we as we can as homeowners to get the right trees, the right plantings. Some of the plantings that are the non-natives were there before, and our survey team added those to most of the ones along the fence there, with the exception of the 3 behind the shed. Those are part of the 14. And then the shrubs across the front of the addition there, the living room is, those were not part of the 14, and those were not natives, but all the 14 are native. So I feel like we've done as much as we can as homeowners to kind of fulfill the needs and requirements of the order of conditions. So just wanted to be here to answer any questions.
Okay. Yeah, no, we appreciate that and appreciate you working with us here. Obviously we have the improvement here of the PIB going in and the plaques and whatnot. So that's great.
Awesome.
On this project. I am comfortable with issuing a COC on this, but I'll open up to the commission, see if anyone has any additional thoughts or questions.
Through the chair, I have what I think is an easy question.
Yeah.
I assume, Mr. Woodson, that plaque on the plan means medallion. It's the little plastic markers that are on the fence.
Yes, yeah, they're the do not disturb placards from you guys.
I don't even think plaque is necessarily the wrong terminology, but I'm used to hearing medallion in my head. So I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's all I got.
Awesome.
Anyone else or anyone from the public? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve this COC with the spelling update on the 125-foot line from the PVP and signature by Judy or Anna?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
All right. All in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
And myself, I am also an aye. So thank you so much for all your work on this project.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
All right, next up we have 10 Exchange Street restoration plan discussion. Judy, can you run through this one for us?
Sure. Through the chair, The commission issued an enforcement order on November 4th after reviewing the wetland delineation provided by the applicant and confirmed by Joe. This new enforcement order required the homeowners to submit a restoration plan and an invasive species management plan by November 26th to be discussed today. So those timelines were met. The changes to this plan versus the prior one, as additional isolated vegetated wetland was found north of the garage, additional PIBs were added. Those are those pink stars here. And there are also some along the driveway. There's a planting list on this plan. They are meeting the 1.5 to 1 ratio for replacement plantings versus removed that the enforcement order required. I don't think we have comments from Joe yet, unless he has some informal. But I think at this point, if not today, at a future meeting, we'd be looking for the commission to confirm that they are satisfied with the restoration plan and the invasive species management plan, if they have any feedback, and kind of get the homeowners in a position to start work this spring, ideally. And additionally, if the commission wants to specify, a survival rate, measure of success for the plantings, any monitoring requirements, those are things I think we can also talk about.
Okay. Great. Joe, I guess I'll kind of turn to you.
Yeah, I could make some informal comments. I do have a draft review ready to send. I just haven't, hasn't gone through internal QA/QC yet, and we'll get that out to you shortly. But I would say, generally speaking, the plantings look appropriate as far as species. As Judy had mentioned, the numbers seem appropriate. The PIB locations, I was going to suggest the commission discuss whether those need to be extended. The more northern ones kind of along the driveway and back toward the garage, and the southern ones more toward the garage. Let's see. I also had several comments on the proposed invasive species management plan that was required under the enforcement order. There were specific items that were required, and some of those are not included in the plan that was submitted. So there's a few things that I think need to be beefed up in that. And that, I think, generally at this point is what I have.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Joe. So I think we'll look forward to seeing your report issued and being able to digest that, as will the applicant. I think we should talk about the PIBs for a minute, give some feedback there. So what you're referencing, Joe, is along the existing driveway that kind of, well, I guess from the garage, the woman who came in line.
North-south driveway, and well, both driveways. There's the east-west one where, potentially could get another PIB between what they're showing in the garage, and then the north-south driveway. That wetland essentially borders the existing driveways all the way up to the garage. So I thought that would be the spot in particular that you might want to consider some additional.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Do we have the homeowner engineer on the line? We got a lot of people in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. My name is Padma, and yes, I'm just looking at it. So Dave will will join if needed, like in the next session. But for now, to this session only, I'm present. So yeah,
okay.
Please let me know what questions you have.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be, I guess for this topic of conversation, it would be, are you amenable to adding a couple more of the PIB medallions in that area around the driveway that Joe is talking about?
So, because honestly, I think you just want those additional PIBs just to make sure, like, the wetland area is well protected, like even in spite it's isolated. And why do we want that additional PIBs?
That's correct, just so that it's identified if someone is out there. I mean, you are probably getting very familiar with where they are just through this process, but for the next homeowner, or if you ever have a landscaper or something like that, that it is very clear that this is an area that needs to be protected and respected. So I think along the driveway, there is that isolated wetland that is not so apparent, and it is right next to the driveway. So it could be an area that's easily encroached on if it's not identified with some medallions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. And then, all right, so you'll go through with Dave when Joe issues his comment letter. You can look at those with Dave. Obviously, there's some comments on the invasives report that we'll want to be addressed. And then as far as Judy referred to, the commission will need to just issue or add to the enforcement order the schedule to actually have this work done. So at the next meeting, we'll be talking about that, and Judy can probably draft that up in the meantime for us to look at. But Padma, are you in a place that we could anticipate for these plantings to happen in the spring? Is that reasonable schedule for you? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Just
Through the chair,
yes, Ted.
I was looking for a place to jump in. I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted to circle back to the PIBs for a sec. If we
Okay.
can.
Yep.
I agree with what Joe said and with what you said, and I'm happy, Padma, that you're happy to put a few more in along the driveway. I would love to see, and it's not clear to me why they're not there. If we look at the northern PIBs, they're all inside the 50-foot no disturb zone, and that to me doesn't make much sense. I would love to see them pushed to the 50-foot no disturb zone, not be put inside of it. And then the entire driveway, the driveway that runs east-west on the south side of the property, that's all inside the 50-foot, I'm aware. But I would love to see those PIBs also closer to the driveway. I don't know how many feet away those little stars are from the driveway, but they look like they're at least the same width of the driveway. And that seems like quite a swath of land within the no disturb zone that we're allowing to be disturbed further. So I would love to see those kind of pushed even further away, both on the north and the south from the resource areas.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes, Ed.
I would like to echo Ted's comments.
I think my question, or spin-off question on that would be, Pen, can you describe the area? Is it grassed, or what's the ground makeup there along the driveway between where the PIB markers are shown now and that 50-foot? Is that
so almost straight to that garage is kind of like a driveway. It's not grass, so I can't really tell exactly, but if they are located like on the grass or the driveway, but straight onto that garage is a driveway.
Mm-hmm.
Through the chair, we only have the plan. We don't have a photo, I don't think, but the plan seems to indicate they're not along the driveway though. But I get your question. If that is the concrete drive accurate on the plan, what lives between the concrete drive and the plantings? That's, I think, what you were asking.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah, sometimes we struggle with, these medallions floating in the middle of a grass lawn area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Through the chair, this
Yes.
is kind of an old picture. right after the clearing was done earlier this year, but it's this is coming in, so oh wait, no, I'm turned around. This right here is the driveway. That's the north-south driveway. I'm trying to find a picture of the entrance. But I wouldn't say it's grass.
Okay.
I can keep scrolling around. I'm not sure that I have an angle of that.
That's okay, Judy. I think this is something that maybe Padma can talk with Dave about, and address the comment, because the comment will obviously be in Joe's letter about the medallions, and can take our feedback to look at those and where they're placed, and that the commission would like to get that as close to the driveway in the 50 as we can. That's reasonably possible.
And on the north side along that 50-foot buffer as well.
Yes. Yep. And I don't know. Oh, okay. So it does say on here the proposed PIB will be 4-inch by 4-inch wood, 2-foot high wooden posts with medallion. Okay, so the plan is to put them on posts.
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
I don't know if Judy, if you can pull up the photos from September 4th. There's a couple, the first couple of photos show the exact area that we're looking at, looking up the driveway and then to the left. And it is grassy.
Try to pull them up real quick. I wouldn't wait on me. This might take a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, then
Sorry.
I think we'll just look for this to continue the discussion at the next meeting, and we can prepare to look at the revised medallion locations with you and Dave, Padma.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's kind of the message, is we also the putting them on wooden stakes is just one option for them. In this scenario, a fence could also be an option, and that might make it more clear and easy. Sometimes the wooden stake medallions, just if they're in the middle, like I was saying, of a grass area, they get lost or they get knocked down or people don't pay attention to them. So we're really looking for something that works with the site. And in this case, it might be moving a couple trees over there so the medallion can be on a tree, or considering a split rail fence or something like that might be a better option in this case. But you can think about that and you can talk with Dave, and we can discuss that at the next meeting.
Yeah, sure. I will ask him to attend the next meeting then. Okay.
Okay. I think that's it. Is there anything I'm missing, Judy, that we wanted to cover today?
I guess if there was anything you wanted me to write into the enforcement order, like survival rates, if you want like a monitoring report per growing season on the knotweed and the plantings, anything like that. I could also just pull from similar examples we've done in the past and have you review at the next meeting, just include some of those common things. What we normally
That would be
do.
helpful for me, I think,
Yep.
in my opinion. Usually going on what we've done on other sites is what I defer to.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any strong feelings on conditions of that enforcement?
Through the chair, I don't necessarily have strong feelings. I think going on what we've done before is good. In a recent meeting, our measure of success was 80% survival rate of the plantings through 2 growing seasons. And if it seems like that's been a kind of consistent range, then that's perfect. But I know that that was one from earlier this year that we used.
Okay, thanks, Ted.
Yep.
All right, so we'll go ahead and continue this out to the next meeting, which is January 6th.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we are going to jump up to the new hearings. So Ted, could you please read for us 19 Chamberlain Street to open that hearing?
You betcha. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Stephen Camoli to construct a mudroom and garage with associated site work. Location 19 Chamberlain Street, Assessor's Map R24, Block 18, Lot 0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. And do we have the applicant here tonight or anyone on behalf of the applicant?
Hi, this is Christine Dada with Camoli Construction. I'm here representing for the contractor.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Would you like to present your project?
Sure. We're proposing to build what, as was stated, a single-story 12 by 12 mudroom and a connecting 26 by 36 garage and a new driveway in the same spot that it is now. And so we're just looking to get that approved.
Okay.
I have submitted everything that was requested to the DEP because we're looking for that determination.
Yep. Okay, and this is an RDA application.
Yes.
Judy, do you have anything to add to that description?
Nope. My initial comments were fairly minor. I just asked them to add the 50-foot buffer to the plan as well as add some PIBs, which were done. So looking for feedback on the placement of the PIBs from the commission. And then I know Joe had several comments as well.
Okay. We'll turn to you then, Joe.
All right. I did note that there is a mapped certified vernal pool in the wetland to the east of the property, the one that is delineated. It looks like the edge of the pool comes fairly close to some of those flags, like flag 6. I think it's probably within about 10 feet of that flag, or possibly a little bit closer, the high water line of that pool. I think the question is whether or not the commission needs to have that mean high water line delineated to see whether any work is proposed within 125 feet. I think it's probably fairly close. The entire site, just as background, is in a ORW as a tributary to public water supply. Also within a Zone A and Zone C surface water protection zone. There's an unnamed intermittent stream to the west of the site. Based on current mapping, it looks to be about 235 feet from the site. So the commission to discuss whether or not that needs to be delineated, and a stream stats review done to determine whether or not that is in fact intermittent. Well, I was in agreement with the wetland delineation. Didn't have any issues. There is a large leaf pile located up gradient of wetland flags 5 through 7. It's a really large leaf pile. Would recommend that be moved out from the wetland edge. It's probably partly in the wetland also. And as a note, the PIB wasn't on the plan, but I see that has been revised and added. And also erosion controls. I don't know if the erosion controls, yep, they have been added to the plan. So those issues have been addressed. I think that covers my comments.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Okay, so our discussion tonight is revolving around whether we would consider this issue a negative determination, or if we think it requires notice of intent, or more information to figure that out. Looking at this property, do we have any pictures, Judy?
Yeah,
That
I
you
can
can
pull
just-
shows up.
Okay.
I think I have these ones.
The thing I'm looking at is that the proposed addition is, I'm guessing, in previously disturbed area. There's not, it's not a lot of area that's actually in the 100-foot buffer, and it's between. There's already the house that's there, and the yard area developed between the addition and the wetland. So to me, I feel like the impacts from this addition, there really would be no impacts from this addition to the wetland area because it's so far away and it's got the house in between. That's a great shot. So
Melissa, this is Jim.
Yes,
Go
Jim.
ahead, show the photos. I was just going to agree with Melissa, given that it's on the west side of the house, barely in the 100-foot, I think this deserves a negative penalty. So go ahead and show the photos.
Do you have a picture of the right side, Judy, just in looking at the PIB locations? So the PIB, okay, so I see the stone wall.
I think it's somewhere along. This is facing the wetland from the house, I believe. I'm not sure exactly where in here, if it's along the tree line.
Okay, do you mind going back to the plan? You jump back. See if the stone wall's on there. Yeah, the stone wall's not on there.
That's not shown.
Right, and all right, so we're talking about PIB medallions supplied by the town. Christine, can you talk for a minute about the PIB that's being proposed? What
Yes.
that's going to look like and kind of how it lands on the property?
We were going to use the medallions that you were going to provide with stakes.
Mhm.
And so wherever you want them, we'll put them. If where they're delineated right now or is not acceptable, we can move them wherever you want us to do.
Okay, where they're delineated now, is there any rhyme or reason for their positioning? Are they like along the limit of the lawn or?
I think it was just along, out of the buffer zone and just along.
25 feet out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that it would make sense to put those along that stone wall tree line area where the limit of the grass is right now. Because if they hang out in the middle of the lawn, it's going to be confusing. Unless there's a major restoration effort, and I just don't think that's warranted for this project.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other opinion on that?
Through the chair.
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Melissa?
Yes, Ted.
I think you're probably right. Even if the stone wall is right along the property line, I think it would create confusion, or in this case, it wouldn't be right to ask for plantings to restore buffer. I only wonder about the existence that Joe points out of the vernal pool and whether that should change some of our thinking, assuming this plan is north-south normally, up along the northern side. If there is a vernal pool right near WFA 6, I wonder if that should change a little bit our thinking for PIBs up that far.
Mm-hmm.
thought it was on the west side, not the east side.
I may have
Joe?
misunderstood. Maybe Joe,
Vernal
you can
pool.
explain to us again?
Yeah, vernal pool is on the east side, and within the delineated
Okay.
pond, there's an intermittent stream, a little bit over 200 feet to the west.
Okay.
Assuming the plan up is north.
So maybe Ted, if we continue the PIB along the property line and that stone wall all the way to the north.
Generally, I'd say okay with the stone wall, but not knowing where it is, in relation to the lines we see on the plan, it's hard for me to say
Follows the line.
immediately yes. Because I can't tell from the photos. I think if there were no vernal pool, I would say great, follow the stone wall. The vernal pool is the only thing that gives me hesitation, and I don't know where the stone wall is on the plans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the stone wall comes within 15 feet of the vernal pool, I think that's a bad place for a PIB.
Is through you, Melissa, I got a question for Joe. Isn't the stone wall we're talking about along the entire western boundary of the property, up by the shed? Is that right? You got the shed, and then it looks like that's the same stone wall you're talking about. It would be behind the addition all the way up the western side.
Through the chair, I think there's stone walls on both sides.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
One in the front.
Okay.
Melissa,
Yes, Matt.
my suggestion would be either along the stone wall or the larger diameter trees on the western property line, whichever is more upland side. Right. So there's a clearly defined lawn on that side of the home. And then you
Yep.
either hit the trees or the stone wall first. It's tough to tell looking at the pictures and the street view. I think whatever's closest to the house is where the PIBs want to be, whether that's the stone wall or the trees. It looks like the trees.
Yep. No, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I hear you, Ted, about the vernal pool, but I think that even if the vernal pool is identified on the plan, I don't know that it would, for me anyway, I don't know that it would change my feelings on this being an RDA just because it is lawn and it's a very clear line of that wall. And I just don't see critters using the backyard, getting over that barrier of the wall that exists right now.
Through the chair, to be clear, I'm not talking about changing an RDA at all. I'm just
Okay.
talking about placement of PIBs.
Gotcha.
I wonder if, since we are going to be continuing this tonight anyway, I think that's the way it felt. Could we table that discussion and have the plan updated so that we can see where the
Why are we continuing?
trees or wall is on that side?
Yeah, we can ask for a revised plan that shows the wall and the PIB revised location.
That would be helpful to me, and I might be
Yep.
completely with you once I see where the wall is.
Okay. That's okay with me. Then we can feel comfortable with the decision.
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
I apologize if I missed this. Do we know when this home was built?
I do not. I don't know. Christine or Judy, if you.
Like the 80s. Me.
Let me know if I'm hello.
Hello.
This is Roy Rector, the owner of the property.
Oh, welcome.
And the home was built in 1964.
Thank you. Yeah, so Melissa, given the time when the home was built and the clearly defined lawn, I'm with you. Like I don't think any of the vernal pool discussion changes my opinion as to negative determination or not. And I think we can condition a negative determination with clarity that the PIBs be located along the tree line and or stone wall, whichever is more proximate to the edge of lawn.
Mhm.
Because like you said, the vernal pool habitat has been non-existent for the last 50 plus years.
Right.
Through the
Yep.
chair, this is Ed. I have to bow out.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
That's quick. Melissa,
Yes,
I
Jim.
heard someone say that, I heard Ted or someone say, since we're going to be continuing this, what did I miss? Why are we continuing it?
We don't have to
Revise-
continue. I think we could certainly vote on this. I don't think we're
Condition it?
missing anything. It's just a matter of this PIB line, I think. And if we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, okay.
I might have gotten confused. I thought that without Joe's report being officially submitted, that we might not want to. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think your report was submitted, right, Joe?
It has been submitted, correct?
Oh, I must have
Yeah.
confused it with the last property we talked
Yeah.
about. My apologies on that, Ben.
Yeah, I think what Joe's comments were primarily around the resource areas, what we as the commission want to see identified on the plan in order to be able to make our decision if we're comfortable with showing on it now, or do we need additional?
I think it was the Exchange Street property, and I still had that comment of Joe's in my head. So I'm sorry for creating that confusion.
It's okay. So that being said, Ted,
I like what Matt said. And it also occurred to me looking at this map that the big bold line is a property line, right?
Right.
That runs north-south. So obviously the PIBs are going to be within the property line, which means we still have some distance from that vernal pool that Joe identified. So I like what Matt said. I think I'm okay with that.
okay. Matt, would you like to make a motion?
Sure thing. I will make a motion to issue a negative determination with conditions that the PIB be located along the tree line or stone wall, whichever is most proximate to the existing edge of lawn, with signatures by Anna or Judy.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Jim will second.
All right. All in favor? Matt,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
and I am also an aye. So you are all set. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you very much.
My apologies, everyone, for making confusion. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
All right, next up we have 100 Ash Street. This is another new hearing. So if Ted, you could open this for us, that would be great.
I'm ready. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a request for determination of applicability filed by Oleg Gorelek for construction of a patio and walkway, completion of a detached garage, and after the fact approval of a shed with associated site work. Location 100 Ash Street, Assessor's Map U22, Block 60, Lot 0.
Thanks, Ted. Okay. Do we have a representative for this project on the call?
Yes. Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jacob Crossan. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, and I'm presenting this application on behalf of the applicant Oleg Gorlik. So beginning with existing site conditions, it's located at 100 Ash Street and consists of a single-family house with a paved driveway, detached garage foundation, and BVW to the north that casts a 100-foot buffer zone over almost the entirety of the house. So the primary purpose of this RDA is seeking retroactive approval for an unpermitted shed in the left of the yellow block there that was placed within the 50-foot no disturb. So the applicant received an enforcement order that essentially called for the removal of the shed from this location. However, after review of historic aerials showcasing that this was a historically cleared area, the enforcement order was updated to reflect this, stating that the applicant were to either remove the shed or submit an RDA seeking approval for this shed. So we are submitting this RDA for primarily the shed. In addition, the applicant wanted to include several minor activities that we believe are exempt under the bylaw and the act, as reiterated by the Lucas environmental letter, kind of just to include these into the submission we are already submitting. So to the right, we have the expansion of the existing patio with an egress staircase down to a stone patio with a stone walkway. This is all over existing lawn and about 54 feet away at its closest point, so outside of the 50-foot no build. In addition, the applicant is proposing the completion of the garage foundation. So to the left, this garage foundation was approved under a prior COC site plan. So the applicant is proposing completing this in accordance to the priorly approved footprint. So that kind of wraps up what this RDA is seeking approval for. So I'd now like to open it for comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. I know we talked a lot about this in a previous meeting. We talked about the shed, we talked about the foundation. I think the deck is a little bit new tonight. And then the PIB locations that I see on there, those are the edge of the grass?
Yes, there's an arborvitae line there that kind of demarcates the difference between the grass area and kind of the beginning of the buffer zone of the wetland.
Okay, great. I know we had requested those at our October meeting, so thank you for adding those to the plan. Joe, it was alluded to that you reviewed this application. Do you have comments that you would like to go over for us?
Yeah, I did submit comments. There was a subsequent response from the applicant, which I think addressed a lot of them, but with regard to the delineation, I didn't have any issues. I thought it was actually somewhat on the conservative side, meaning slightly up gradient of the actual wetland boundary. It was, the locations were located by GPS, so I had requested some information on the accuracy of the GPS, which the applicant provided. I'm trying to think, I think he was sub-meter within generally within a 6-inch range of error. So I think that's fine for this purpose. I had noted that the delineation flag numbers were not on the previous plan. Those have been added. I had noted that previously when we reviewed a COC for the project, there was some discussion on the use of the garage, whether it was going to be used for any vehicle repair activities or just for storing vehicles. I brought that up again, and from the response from the applicant, it's going to be generally be used for storing vehicles and not maintenance work. Let's see. There was a proposed planting bed on the edge of the 100-foot buffer zone. I just recommended that the applicant provide some information on the plants that were being proposed, and I think that has not yet been determined. I think the discussion item is with regard to the location of the shed and whether it can be allowed to remain partly within the no disturb zone. I had noted that a waiver request had not been submitted, and I think that was submitted subsequently with a discussion of alternatives. I think that pretty much covered my comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. So it sounds like those were mostly addressed. You said the waiver request was submitted. It has been, yeah. Okay.
Correct. I think maybe the applicant could describe the waiver request, and so the commission can discuss that.
Jacob, would you like to just?
Yes, yeah, I could go over that. Let me just pull it up real quick. All right. Yes, so I kind of went bullet by bullet in accordance to the bylaw, going kind of starting with there's no practical conditions or alternatives that allow the project to proceed in compliance with the regulations, and kind of just reiterating the fact that this is a previously historically altered area, historically cleared area, and relocating the shed anywhere else would be over existing lawn and kind of have a similar impact. And following that, the project, there's natural and consequential effects will not have any adverse effects upon any of the interests protected by the bylaw. So again, this is kind of the shed did not clear any vegetation to be placed there. It was an old, I think, storage area for wood or something like that. So it was historically cleared. And then kind of alternatives analysis, relocating the shed would also additionally potentially result in tree removal. So again, kind of the scope of alternatives to where the shed are now would kind of result in a similar kind of lack of impact or lack of change.
Okay. Thank you. And can you just describe for a minute on the, I think I said deck, but I'm reading on the plan and it says patio, that surface?
Yeah, so currently there is a deck with a staircase that kind of goes down to, right now it's kind of just dirt and gravel. So the applicant it's dirt and gravel and kind of lawn. So the applicant is proposing placing a stone paver patio there with a stone walkway that kind of leads up to the existing driveway.
Okay. Okay. And that's all outside the 50.
Yes.
Okay. This looks pretty straightforward to me, and I think we've issued RDAs for these type of activities in the past. Does anyone have any questions or comments or discussion items on the commission?
The only comment that I make, Melissa, is I agree, we've looked at this being outside the 50-foot for the patio, but in particular as a minor activity.
Yeah, okay. Are there any comments or questions from the public? Oh, okay. Hearing none, then can I get a motion to issue a negative determination with, I don't think we had any conditions. No. Yep, a negative determination with signature by Judy or Anna.
I'll make that motion.
Real quick before someone seconds, the PIBs, are those red circles intended to be PIBs, and do we need to condition it to include those?
They are PIBs. Judy, if that's on the plan, is that
They're on the plan.
scooped up in there? Or?
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes.
We do by default have like standard conditions for negative DOAs. I think a PIB is one of them.
Okay.
And then since it's on the plan, there is a reference condition that says work must follow the approved and referenced plans. So between those two, we should be covered.
Perfect. I will second it then.
All right. All in favor? Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
And I am also an aye. All right. Thank you, Jacob, for coming in, and good luck on the project.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, guys.
Yep. All right. Next up, we have the Hopkinton Trails Committee, Chamberlain Street Loop Road continuation. Judy, you want to go over where we're at on this one?
Sure. Through the chair, the long awaited DEP number has been issued for this project with fairly minor comments, one of which was they wanted to see erosion controls extended through the limit of work in areas where they were not previously. I believe Chuck has made those changes to the plans we see here. And then the major outstanding comment from the commission was you all wanted to see this kind of proposed extension of the trail between the wetland and the stormwater basin off Loop Road to not be constructed with stone dust at this time. So the plans have been noted to connect the trail to the existing access road off of the field here. So it appears to me that all outstanding comments have been met, but we also have Chuck here for any additional context.
Okay. Chuck, do you have anything to add?
Chuck Dotchie, 25 Sanctuary Lane, representing or assisting the Trails Committee. No, I think I believe, covered the concerns. We also show stockpile areas which were requested previously. And we trust that we've addressed all the issues.
Great, thank you. Yep, I'd agree. This is what we were looking for. So can I get a motion to approve this application?
Melissa, I'll make a motion in a moment. Chuck, I just wanted to thank you for understanding our hesitation with that part of the path and not pushing back too hard. I appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this with signatures by Judy or Anna.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor. Matt?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. I didn't miss anybody, right? We're still, yeah.
Ed's out.
Ed's out still. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Dutch. Good luck.
Chuck, I look forward to walking the new path when it's in.
Hopefully, things will be completed by next summer. So
beautiful. That's
you.
about when I start walking again.
Thank you to all, and enjoy the holidays.
You too. All right, next up we have 15 Montana Road. It's a notice of intent continuation for after the fact work. I think we opened this and continued it right away last time, so this is the first time we're seeing anything on this property, other than what we read in the file, obviously. So, Judy, can you give us the background on this?
Sure. Through the chair. So the homeowner at 15 Montana has filed an NOI for after the fact work in conservation jurisdiction. This was originally noted by DEP during their review of the notice of intent for 12 Maple Street extension, which is located approximately here to the east. As they noted, some work done on the neighboring property that didn't appear to have been permitted. So the work encompassed by the application is this paddock here. There's a barn and a coop structure. I think there are some questions about how far the delineation extended, but I guess just as an overview, that's what the applicant is seeking, is after the fact approval with flagging done around BBW on this side of the property line. And I think there's questions about how far it extends. So I think as a high level, that's all I have, but happy to provide any other details.
Okay. Thanks, Judy. Joe, have you looked at this one yet?
I have. I did go out and take a look at the site. With respect to the delineation that is shown on the plan, I agree with that delineation. It was previously approved. It's a very straightforward stone line stream channel. It's been reflagged in the same location as previously approved, it appears. Didn't have any issues with that. I did take a look at the rest of the site as far as you notice that there's a blue line swale indicated on the plan that goes south from the area where the delineated wetlands are along the property line, and then turns to the west along the property line. There's also a swale that continues from where that swale turns north. It continues west along the property line, all the way to the western property line, and then swings north up along the far west property line. For the most part, there are no wetlands along that swale, and the swale itself does not have any hydric soil, but it is a swale and could be considered as a intermittent channel under the bylaw. The western part of the property, the swale does become hydric, and there are hydric soils located up gradient of that swale on the property, as well as off the site to the west, where there's a forested wetland. Looking at some of the historic aerials of the site, it was, I think, prior to, 2016, it was prior to 2015, it looked like most of the site was forested, and a lot of clearing took place out there. I know the applicant is stating that the activities that have been completed qualify as a limited project under Wetlands Protection Act agricultural use. I would think the commission may want to take a look at that language and see if the activities that have occurred on the site within the buffers, apparent to buffer zones to the wetlands and the swales do meet the definition of agricultural use. Let's see. I know under the bylaw, agricultural use can be exempted. However, I think the key term there for the bylaw is with respect to if it's an agricultural use at the time of the filing or at the time of the activity, maybe. So I don't know if the site was previously, wooded, forested based on aerial photographs. I don't know if there was agricultural activity, which could include commercial logging activity or on the site that was occurring. This is something that the applicant might want to provide some additional information on with respect to agricultural activities that were occurring on the site previously. I think that pretty much covers my comments.
Okay.
Oh, also, sorry, would recommend that the banks of the swales and the BVW areas get delineated.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe. Do we have the homeowner or the applicant on the line?
Yep. This is Ed Kelly. I'm the owner of 15 Montana.
Welcome. Would you like to chime in and give any?
Yeah, I can give some perspective on the activity on the lot. I mean, our family's lived on this property for 108 years. My great-great-grandfather bought the property from the Harvard University, at which time it was all fields. It was all farmland. There was an apple orchard. There was a produce farm. There's been some level of agricultural use on the property historically through the family lineage since that time. There has been, as far back as 1978, dairy activity with goats. Our current activity is dairy farming. We have dairy goats, we have horses, we have rabbits, we have poultry. Um, my grandkids are the sixth generation on this property. So our work out here is to be good stewards and sustain and enhance and grow the property to keep it viable for the family in the future. So from a standpoint of the development work we've done, it's all been related to the agricultural activity that our family has been committed to. Our family obviously is a little more in depth in it, in that we're involved in 4-H. We've got more animals than previous family members. There's been 3 other dwellings on this property that go back into the 50s and 60s, even before that are on the old assessor's map. So most of the all of the building locations are places where there were previous buildings prior to the ones that we've put on the property. So our response on the swale activity was just a function of knowing that the number 9 stakings that were done for the bank needed to be addressed. So we specifically focused on that area because that was the order of conditions that was open at the time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And we've also, we planted over 30 trees back into the property. We've continued to do those types of developments. There's a fruit tree orchard there. We've got full-time agricultural on strawberries. There's other activities that obviously aren't represented on the plan. But that's been the extent of the activity and the purpose for it.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you for that background. That helps. So I think I need to, as Joe had said, look into the bylaw exemption, understand that for myself and how it applies to the property now that we kind of had that background information from you. Is there any, are you amenable to, as Joe had suggested, getting the banks of the swale and the BBW delineated for the rest of the property? Not so that we have it for this and for future work that you might be doing on the property.
Yeah, I would need to understand what that actually means. And obviously I can talk with my engineer, who's Joe Marquardon, about what that actually means, because to some extent I have a pretty good understanding being in construction, what that means, but I would just want to know the scope of that. In this case, the swales in place now just keep the paddock from seasonal washout, keep the meadows and the riding and the round pen from being overwhelmed during melt off and things like that, surface water. So my concern with anything that addresses those is that they still function. So obviously we're open to cooperating with the board and to do what we need to do so that everybody understands what's going on out here and has the same perspective that at least they need to have to make the decisions you need to make. So the answer is yes, we will cooperate. I just need to understand what all that means.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to open up to the commission and see if anyone has any questions for Mr. Kelly. Any thoughts on this one? I think we're a little bit in the information gathering stage right now.
Melissa, I have a question, I think, for Joe, if he can answer it quickly, but I don't want to slow us down. While I've been listening to Mr. Kelly, I've been pouring through the bylaws and looking for the agricultural exemption. Joe, could you point to where that is for me? And then I can do my reading of it afterwards, like Melissa's suggesting. But
Section 206-4D of the bylaw. Chapter shall not apply to any activity performed for the normal maintenance or improvement of land actively devoted to agricultural use, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. I went right past I was reading the bigger paragraphs. I thought there'd be more on agriculture. Thank you, Joe.
Through the chair.
And further, section 206.2 regarding the definition of agriculture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
Ted, in your research, I would also point you to the definitions in the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah.
There's a definition for agriculture that has some subsections. Land and agricultural use is defined. Normal agricultural activities and maintenance of that land is defined. I think that's probably where you're going to find the information you need to make a decision on this particular case.
Yeah, in fact, our town bylaws, if I may, Melissa, point right away to the state regs.
Yeah.
They don't even give a definition. They say, just look at what the state says.
It's because the Wetlands Protection Act has like 3 pages of definition for agriculture.
That's what you were looking for, Ted.
No need to copy and paste into our bylaw.
No, not at all.
One question I have, just in anticipation of this discussion continuing into next meeting. Sounds like there's a lot of historical agricultural use of the property. It looked like on the aerial imagery, it had been inactive in the area we're considering under this particular discussion. So it would be helpful to better understand if there were any like USDA contracts in place or any other documentation about commercial activities for the land in question. I think that'll help educate us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right from our knowledge, there hasn't been any USDA documentation filed. This property was originally also part of the parcel at the end of Nebraska Street. And that is where one of the original homesteads has been for probably the last 75 years. And that house had, like I said, apple orchard, 2 barns, and some of the farming activity that goes back to the mid-70s. But during that period, probably from late 70s, 80s until 2010, 11, when we started to receive approvals to build and continue to grow the farm there, that portion of the property had not been, other than cart path access, some places where there was limited firewood forestry going on for personal use and things like that. The part we're talking about now was relatively unused during that period. But historically, back in I think 1917 is when the property was purchased. The entire property, the stone walls, everything was fields. And so I think it was just a function of, depending on what section they were using, it grew up and took over.
Do you think, Mr. Kelly, could you put what you're speaking of in writing, just to give us,
sure,
a timeline and your understanding of this history, so that we can look at that kind of side by side with our documentation in the act and the bylaw regarding agricultural use?
Absolutely. I have a narrative generated, which I could clean up and present in writing for sure.
Okay. I think that would be helpful. All right, then I think at this point in time, we'll continue out to the next hearing. The commission will do some homework on agricultural use in our bylaw and the act. And if you could speak with Mark Rodance, your consultant, on the stream or the swale banks and BVW delineation and what that might look like. We can talk about it on January 6th.
Okay.
Does that sound okay, Mr. Kelly?
Sounds good to me. Yep.
Okay.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming in. Can I get a motion to continue this out to January 6th?
I'm happy to make that motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor. Ted?
Ted is an aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have 10 Clinton Street, notice of intent continuation for a septic replacement. All right. Judy, what do we have here?
Yep, through the chair. So the last hearing this was discussed, there was no DEP number issued yet. That has since been issued with no comments from DEP. A few of Joe's outstanding comments were a grass clipping pile that he saw around wetland flag 4 and between 2 and 3. So we have confirmed that those grass clippings have been removed. The applicant added a little bit more information about the plantings. So there are 2 ornamental shrubs within the limit of work that they said they're going to try to transplant and plant elsewhere and keep those shrubs. But in case those don't make it, they have proposed 2 additional high bush blueberry to be planted. I don't believe they've specified a location, but the idea is to save those shrubs and add supplemental plantings. They did add a note on the new proposed patio that is going to be the same size as the existing patio, which has to be moved to make room for the septic system. So there's a note that the patio size of the new one will be the same size as the existing. And then a brief alternatives analysis was provided by the applicant via email to accompany the waiver request for work in the 50. I think the only sort of outstanding comment that Joe had was that there were no wetland field data forms provided, but as he did agree with the delineation, I think it's up to the commission whether you would like to see that information or not.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like it's in pretty good shape. Joe, did you have anything to add to Judy's summary?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay. And it seems like, did we talk about that split rail fence permanent barrier last time? Looks like it's in a similar location and everyone was okay with that, I guess, on the applicant side. Do we have someone here from the owner or representative?
Hi, we're here. Claire and John Kerr.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add at this point in time? Looks like you're in pretty good shape.
Please just approve us.
All right, let's move on then. I'm fine with the wetlands forms not being included in the file, being that Joe agrees with the wetland line. So that being said, can I get a motion to approve this notice intent?
So
With signatures.
With
number, right? The signatures by Anna and Judy.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
We need a number though, right?
They have a number.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, Matt,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Ted,
Ted is an aye.
and I'm also an aye.
And I'm an aye.
I'm an aye. Thank you.
Good. All right. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to get a round of applause after a vote.
Hey.
I think we ought to have that more often.
You want us to do it again?
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have 33 West Elm Street, notice of intent continuation for a sewer connection. We went over this one in our last meeting. Judy, can you point out the updates?
Would you like me to take a stab at it, or do you want to do it?
Oh,
Go ahead, Joe.
Here. Yeah, Joe.
Okay. Evening all. Joe Marquardt here. Since we met last, we have added some info to this plan. in response to feedback from Judy and from Joe Orzel. The chief issue we felt were the buffer zones and the different resource areas. So we have converted the site plan, which was on an assumed base, to the elevation base that matches the federal flood hazard maps. We did micro topo in the backyard and established that limit of the flood zone AE, the 385-50 elevation, which shows up in red on the right-hand edge of this plan within the area of hydric soils. That is also the limit of the bordering land subject to flooding. So the 50 and the 100 from that kind of run generally with the 100-foot buffer from the BVW edge, which is shown in green here. So our limits of the jurisdictional areas are very similar. We cleaned up some issues I had with some of the documents, and what was left was kind of an issue that caught me by surprise. In the meantime, since we met last, the homeowner has contracted with Stumpy tree removal, and 6 trees within the buffer zone were removed. Those are those black polygons of the circles that you see there at the edge of the 100-foot buffer. We lost to that activity, we lost a 40-inch oak, we lost a 15-inch maple, and 4 arborvitaes. So when we left last time, we were discussing 1 tree and the replacement for that 1 tree. I believe the conversation now should revolve around 6 trees lost and what will be added in their place. So we developed a planting plan that highlights a combination of trees and shrubs equaling 12. So 2 to 1, if you will, for what was lost. Some white pine, some white oak, some northern red oak, dogwood, serviceberry, and low bush blueberry sprinkled in that area right there against the tree line, against the buffer zone. Some fall inside the buffer, some fall out. We were trying to space them. I was trying to space them for maximum success with regard to the growing and in general area around what was lost. That is the major change from the items that we kind of ticked off last time, was this unforeseen tree clearing.
Okay. That's unfortunate. All right. Then, Joe Orzel, did you have a chance to look at this, the planting schedule and whatnot?
I did, and the plants all look appropriate. I know Joe had mentioned that some of the plants were proposed outside the buffer zone. That was one of my comments for the commission to discuss. I don't know if there would be other locations within the buffer zone where they might be able to fit a couple of those in. The previous comment was that no alternatives analysis have been submitted. That has been submitted, and it appears appropriate. Trying to think if there's any more outstanding comments. The buffer zone, as Joe had described from the high water line, has been added to the plan, and I think that pretty much covers all my comments. Not too much outstanding.
Okay.
Just primarily the buffer zone plantings.
Yep. I like the comment about trying to keep the plantings within the buffer zone, so then they're in our jurisdiction going forward. Joe Marquardt, is there any place to put them, even if it's not near, that area where the force main's going in? Is there room to put them down by where the existing leach field is, it kind of seems like there's some tree line space down there that
Yeah, where
maybe
Julie
could
has
stick.
the cursor now, there is a footpath there that
Mhm.
gets you probably to a neighbor's home. It doesn't look like it serves any real purpose at the site. You access the shed against the boundary line a different way. So that is a spot where something could take place up on the other side of the deck. Maybe a tree could end up there. There are some possibilities. I think I have 4 outside the limit of the buffer zone, and I think they're all trees. So it'd be a matter of moving those trees and finding locations. My big concern was putting them too close together, that we jam them on top of each other to reach a certain number, and then they don't flourish, they don't succeed because they're too tight to each other. So certainly spread them out. That was the motivation. We can certainly, if you disagree, we can find other spots for them.
Yeah, I think I would prefer to see them spread out, and putting them closer to the wetland area that we're trying to kind of create that resource area buffer is a plus, I think, in my mind. Does anyone have anything they want to share or ask from the commission? Keep waiting for Ed, and he's not here because we're talking about trees. His silence is deafening for Ed. No? Okay. I guess the question is, if this is the last outstanding issue, Judy, do you have any hesitation on, should we continue this out for a revised plan?
I think if you really want to see a revised plan with the plantings shifted, then yes, it can be hard to get a revised plan and issue an order of conditions within the 21-day deadline. So if you don't want me banging on Joe Marquardon's door, I think it would be easier, but I think it's up to Joe.
Through the chair, we can certainly develop a revision to this plan and work it out with Judy if this is the only item left.
We can also add a special condition. All replacement plantings need to be within buffer zone if you really want to get this closed out tonight.
Okay. Joe, are you under the gun to get this closed out tonight?
I'm feeling a little pressure, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'd be okay with putting a condition in there. And if you can provide an updated plan, Joe, if we have the condition in there, I think it covers us. If you have to issue it, Judy, without the plan, but Joe, if you can get a plan to Judy and work with her to get the tree locations agreed upon, off the record, or, for use when they actually go in the ground, I think that would be great.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
For the plantings, are we thinking 6 within the 50-foot buffer and 6 within the 100-foot buffer, or like what are we thinking numbers wise, just to give Joe a sense of the expectation? Or Joe, if you're suggesting a certain number, we'd love to hear that, because I think it's helpful for everyone if that special condition quantifies expectations to make it clear.
Right now, Matt, I have 1 proposed within the 50. Just try to leave that area alone. So if we go into these areas that are currently cleared, the footpaths around the property that we mentioned a second ago, then we could easily get 6 inside the 50 and 6 between the 50 and 100.
Is it problematic for the landowner to have plantings in that footpath, or is it something that's not used?
I would say that as long as there's a width that allows it to be used as a footpath, Right now, I look at that and I say we're 10 to 12 feet wide. So if we left him something 3 to 4 foot wide to still allow that access for whatever that use is, I think we could accomplish both goals.
And they don't need the existing leach field. I mean that because it's getting pumped to sewer now, right? So that area is available.
Correct.
For
I'm not sure
potential planting.
what's there for soil.
Yeah.
That's the only qualification I would offer, is that if it's an old-fashioned bed full of crushed stone, then that becomes difficult. Remove that, replace it with soil that would allow a tree to flourish. Finish it off with loam, that becomes a little bit bigger. But if we get to the edge of that leach field and we find soils, normal soils, native soils, and I don't see any reason why a tree or shrub couldn't survive there.
Through the chair, Judy, can you scroll down a little bit to the planting list? I see okay, so there's some shrubs mixed in there. Okay, so I mean, it sounds like, Joe, your sense is we could maybe plant a tree and some shrubs within that footpath and not prohibit its use.
I would agree with that, yes.
So how does this sound for a condition? This for the special condition, or conditioning the approval with the understanding that a combination of trees and shrubs, 6 will be planted within the 50-foot buffer and the other 6 will be planted within the 100-foot buffer.
I think that works.
Does that work, Melissa?
Works for me. Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah, well, I did have a comment regarding the serviceberry that's proposed, the Amelanchier. The species is not provided in the plant list. While most of those or many of those are native, there are some that are not native. So I just want to make sure that a native Amelanchier is utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to attempt a motion here?
Yes.
All right. I will make a motion to issue an order of conditions with 2 special conditions. The first being that the Amelanchier species be selected from the list of plantings that the commission has. The second being that 6 of the proposed plantings, trees and or shrubs, will be placed within the 50-foot buffer, and the other 6 will be placed within the 100-foot buffer.
I'll second that motion. With signatures, I'll second that motion.
I accept Ted's amendment.
All right, all in favor. Ted?
Ted is an aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. All right, all set.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. All right. Next up, we have 12 North Mill Street. This is a continuation, single-family house. I see Mr. Petrosi's on the line.
Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
So since we last met, we did a couple of revisions to the plan. First of all, we went out there and we located the substantial trees 10 inches in diameter or greater. We provided an existing condition sheet showing the trees located. We also reconfigured the house to move it a little bit further away from the edge of wetlands, where we try and take more advantage of the variance that was given to us. So the garage area is now pushed forward to the 30-foot setback that was given to us or granted to us by the zoning board. And then we also created a wetland replication area. I think the commission was a little bit concerned that not providing any replication wouldn't be compliant with the wetland regulations. So we have a wetland replication area that's a little bit over 1-to-1 of the area that's being proposed for filling. And that's pretty much it since we last met. And I will be meeting with the Board of Health to request a waiver from their regulations regarding the location of the well within closer than 50 feet from to the wetlands. So that's pretty much all I have to report. And that's, I think we've kind of maximized this area. We were only using out of 79,000 square foot plus or minus lot, we're only using about 18,000 square feet of it in the front portion of the lot.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that summary update. So you said you added on the existing conditions plan trees greater than 10 inches.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can, I think in terms of the replication area that we're proposing on the right side of the lot, there are no substantial trees. I think there's maybe one substantial tree in that area. And so we'll be adding some vegetation in there that would be more than what's there today.
Okay. So that was going to be my question. It's safe to assume that all of these trees that are identified are coming down since you're squeezing the most.
Yeah, more than likely, yes.
Okay. Do you know offhand how many? Just curious.
I didn't count them. There's going to be maybe a couple of dozen or a dozen, maybe 20.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't really count them, to be honest with you.
All right. Did we get the vernal pool 125 habitat area corrected on the plan?
I'm not sure if he did or not. No, it's still at 100, but certainly would take care of that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. And then you referenced replication of 1-to-1 or a little bit over 1-to-1 is what you have shown?
Yes, I requested a waiver from the bylaw regulations because I think you require 1.5 and it really would become very difficult to provide that extra 500 square feet.
Okay, so you sent us a waiver for that.
Yeah, I requested.
So that's something we have to look at. Okay.
I updated the waiver request when I filed the revised plan.
Okay. So we'll have to look at that. All right. Does anyone have any questions on this? What's being presented tonight? I think we need to hear from the Board of Health, see if you're successful with your waiver there. And
well, it would, back in 1998, they did grant the waiver before. I'm hoping that they will, as you know, board members change and a lot of things change over the years. I'm hoping that they will consider this favorably, but it certainly would be helpful if the commission expressed their support for the waiver, because the only alternative would be to cross the wetlands to put it in, or vice versa with the house and the driveway. So I think a lot of the Board of Health would welcome the commission's input, let's say, of course, I don't want to put words in the commission's mouth, but if the commission were favorably inclined to support this proposal, then the waiver is essential to the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, no, I agree that the waiver is essential to this plan that we're looking at in order for it to move forward. Joe Orzel, have you gotten, I don't think we have comments from you on this version of the plan yet. Is that correct?
That's correct. My understanding is that we were waiting for a full response to our initial comments before going on with any further responses or any further comments.
Right, yeah, right. We did touch on that in the last meeting. Oh, Ed, you're back.
I am back.
Thank you.
It was a fabulous, extravagant event.
Okay.
I would like to comment on this. And I think it's absurdly silly that we require some wetland filling and then we require the replication. And to me, it seems utterly absurd that we say that, yes, you have to fill in some wetland here to get some setback requirements. And I kind of understand, but then you got to come over to the other side and you got to attempt to make some wetland. It just seems a silly thing to me. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we don't make the regulations, and so we're just trying to apply the regulations evenly so that it allows us to limit the disturbance to the wetlands.
This is not a comment directed at you, Lou. This is a comment on the situation that's right here in front of us. That's all.
Sure. No problem. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have one comment.
Sure, go ahead.
I think, Mr. Petrosi, you thought that maybe 20 trees would be cleared, 20 significant trees, 10-inch DBH or greater. Is that right?
To be honest with you, I didn't count them, but
but ish.
So yeah, we're in that ballpark.
So what I'm wondering is, in that replication area, we're only getting 3 trees back. A bunch of bushes, certainly, but I'm wondering if more trees could safely fit in there. Or even, I realize it's about a 1-to-1 replication. I was looking at the specs on the pink shaded, and it's about equal. But if that purple were expanded just a little bit to maybe where the wetland line hits the road, add a little strip, maybe there's even more spot for trees. I'm just curious on the tree to bush replication ratio.
You know, there's no magic formula to how this was set up. It was perfectly amenable to adding some other, types of tree canopy in there if that's what the commission is preferred.
Maybe I'll throw it to Ed. Ed, maybe I shouldn't ask, given your last comment, but do you have thoughts on the replication tree to shrub ratio, Ed? I guess not.
No.
No. Well, I, for one, would like to see more trees if we're going to remove 20-ish. I'd love to see a few more than 3 come back.
Phrasing the question that way, then I would be sympathetic to your opinion.
Thank you, Ed.
Well, I'm certainly willing. I mean, obviously, I know this is a unique situation. I'm perfectly happy to try and address that particular concern about adding a few, I don't know how many we can fit in there. I don't know what's in there presently for vegetation, but certainly we could try to add or supplement the vegetation that's there. One of the things that, obviously when you depending on the size of the tree, you don't want it to have a way to grow over time. So you can't just plant trees on top of other trees.
I understand that, and I'm not proposing a number for that very reason. Just eyeballing it, it looks like maybe some more trees could fit in there. But
yeah, I think we can go out there and take a look at it, and if we can put more in it, listen, I understand the accommodation here if it gets approved, and certainly willing to work with the commission to add wherever we can for vegetation, and even along. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the wetland replication area. It can be a border along the existing BBW to the rear of the house too. I mean,
sure,
we've had other situations where we've supplemented that in the past, and we certainly can do that again.
Thank you. That's my only comment right now, Melissa.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's some guidance documents on this too, and Jorizal can maybe chime in when he does his review of this particular application. But that kind of brings me back, Lou. I think we talked at the last time we talked about you issuing a letter just in a response to Joe's comments, the ones that apply.
Oh, I didn't do that. I mean,
Okay.
quite honestly, I thought most of his comments related to, the other alternatives, which were all involved crossing the wetlands in some fashion, and didn't really apply to this particular plan. So if you would like me to do that, I'm certainly willing to do that, but I just didn't think the comments were applicable to this particular option.
Yeah, I think, or at least what I was thinking is if you could go through and you can put NA, not applicable, on the comments that don't apply, and then the few or the handful that do, just provide a response. I think that'll help facilitate Joe's review going forward, save him some time,
Okay.
in the, it'll save you some billing, hopefully, and then he can focus on additional comments, related to the new layout here.
Well, I hope Joe's going to be supportive, Joe.
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
The 50-foot wetland buffer line we see on this plan, just looking for a little clarity, is that from the existing wetland boundary or from the new wetland boundary after the fill occurs?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that we had to draw the line of where the replication area is so that we maintain the 50-foot distance to the septic. So we're straddling a line here on both sides to comply with the setback requirements for a septic system. So,
Judy, any chance you can measure it? I know you've got it up on your screen.
I don't, but I mean, if you look at where it crosses the driveway, there's a solid line there, the dash solid cuts through. Yeah. I think that's the 50-foot line from the corner of the wetlands down where it intersects North Mill Street, and then it just moves over and stays 50 feet away. But at that point, it's more than 50 feet away from the septic system, if you follow that.
I think it looks to me, just the dimension and the way that point is there, to me it looks like it's 50 feet off the existing.
Yeah.
Or no, the existing wetland line.
The existing, it's kind of strange the way the regulation is written in terms of the setback line, because it's any point of the wetland, and this happens to extend out in that particular corner. I mean, if we were to fill that little section of wetland there, then we'd have a little bit more flexibility too. But at this point, we're not proposing that. We're just adding to it as replication.
Are you thinking, Matt, that once the replication's built, the septic's then going to be within the 50 of the new wetland line?
There's two things I'm thinking. One is, are you now going to be in the 50-foot from the new line? And two is that wetland fill needed to be 50 feet away from the septic system to make that work? Or are you 50 feet away from the existing line? That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think, quite honestly, I mean, we would be spinning our wheels if we weren't coming up with a plan that would be compliant with the regulations, and that's why the replication area is a straight line down, because that complies, I'm pretty sure, with the 50-foot on both sides.
Yeah, I'm just doing some
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah, no, that was a good question. I'm just looking at that on the existing conditions plan where it shows the a little more clearly where the 50-foot is located. It actually looks like the 50-foot buffer on the western edge of that 50-foot buffer may actually still be from the original wetland line and not the revised wetland line.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That should just be clarified, I think.
I can have them darken it up. I mean, I can have them put another. These colors are my colors, the crayon. So I can put another color on there and sort of amplify it a bit for you. But I'm pretty sure that how this is laid out is to comply with the 50-foot distance on both sides.
Yeah. So this plan definitely makes it easier to see, and I could see it on the other plan. So what it looks like to me is from like flags GC 16 to 18, that distance to the 50-foot buffer is 50 feet.
Yeah.
Where you have flags GC 26, 27, 28, it's clearly a shorter distance. So it seems like that 50-foot would be from the new edge of wetland, and that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
This plan makes it easier to see and figure out.
Through the chair.
Yes, Anna.
So I think, Joe, were you saying that you think down where it says like where the 50-foot comes in above that mill, the word mill, that they're measuring off GC10 versus GC10R?
No, that looks like I think probably GC10R.
Yeah,
I was looking at the other side of the 50-foot buffer, which looks like it's drawn from the original, like roughly from GC 25, and not.
It's drawn. Yeah, because that's the area where we're filling. So
right, because that's where you're filling. So it looks like it's probably drawn from the edge of the proposed fill. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
Mr. Petrozzi, is there a way to locate the septic system so it would be compliant without having to fill the wetland?
No.
Okay.
If there was, we'd be doing it.
I had to ask just to.
I mean, it's just the rules are just crazy. And quite honestly, if we could move the house a little bit more forward, we'd try to do that. But the requirement is for 20 feet away from a basement or 10 feet away from like the garage, which is a filled area. There's no basement. So that's why we can move the garage forward. In that particular case, that can be a little bit closer to a septic field.
So our waiver provisions say that wetland alterations intended to make lands buildable as by fulfilling septic system setback requirements, flood elevation, other minimum construction setbacks, or to achieve minimum lot areas are prohibited for a waiver.
No.
So I don't know that we can, reading that, it seems like we can't approve a waiver for 1-to-1.
You mean just the replication area, or?
Yeah.
So what you're saying then is that I would need 1.5 to 1 replication area to comply.
I think so. I think the way I'm reading it, and I'm not necessarily liking that, as Ed alluded to, creating wetlands in a forest is not the way I like to go. But
You're the chair.
Yes, Judy.
I think there's two sections that apply here with slightly different meanings. So section 4.0 of the regs state that wetland alterations intended to make land buildable, like you just said, are prohibited. but don't reference, if they meet performance standards, they are. That section is covered in 4.3. So that states the commission can grant a waiver from the regs for alteration if they're meeting performance standards. So that 1.5 to 1. So that 4.0 section, it doesn't say that there's a situation in which wetland alteration to make lands buildable is allowable, as I'm interpreting it.
It's like a riddle.
Well, the whole thing is, like I said, it's this is the best alternative other than, doing what we could do.
Yeah, through the chair.
Yes, Matt.
So I think I agree with you, Melissa. It's just a matter of meeting the performance standards for the fill, to having that 1.5 to 1. Because if you do look at that vegetated wetlands alteration, it gives us the ability to evaluate feasible alternatives, and if there are none that provide fewer impacts to wetland resource values, it would give us the ability to approve a vegetated wetland alteration. But I don't see any way we could grant a waiver for non-compliance of the performance standards to make the lot buildable. I think that's the hang up.
Yep.
So I'm a little confused. So what are we, what are we thinking?
Yes, Joe.
The lot, it's making it buildable for this portion of the lot. I mean,
right.
The lot is also has other buildable options, potentially. So.
Right. Okay.
I think this would come under the category of avoiding, minimizing, or mitigating to the best extent possible as part of your alternatives analysis. And that's where this alternative deserves more credit, I guess you'd call it, for what we're proposing to do rather than trying to disturb significantly more of the lot to make it buildable.
Right. Yeah. I'm just not advocating against this particular proposed plan. I'm just trying to make sure that if we are issuing a waiver, we're checking making sure that it's valid.
Oh, no, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I still read it the same way because it doesn't say lots, it says lands. So I think we need the 1.5 to 1 performance standard to be met to eliminate that waiver discussion, because it appears to be prohibited because it's lands, not lots. So the land would be the land in the front. And then the other 3 waivers we would be able to consider and grant if we so chose, because we have the ability through the alternatives analysis to decide that this is the least impactful to the resource areas.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, if we showed this as being a 1.5 to 1 replication area, the commission would be favorably inclined to approve project.
Yeah, I think we could consider it. Yes.
Okay. So what would you like me to do? Would you want me to respond to the comments as best I can?
Yep.
I'm going to revise the plan to see what 1.5 to 1 does for the replication. Obviously, it just diminishes the amount of the lot. I think it would add roughly 10 feet width to the replication area by the depth. So I think we could probably do that. And then I just would need support with the Board of Health to allow them to grant the waiver from their regulations. So however you can help in that respect, that would be great.
When are you going to the Board of Health? Is that
That's scheduled for the 12th.
okay?
So we have one more meeting between now. You folks meet on the 6th? I think I heard you say.
We do meet on the 6th. We meet on the 6th and then the 27th.
Yeah, so I could have this revised, the plan revised, and submitted next week, or even maybe this week.
Okay.
To show
Through the
the
chair.
additional.
Yes, Judy.
I think there was just a few additional things that were mentioned that we would need to see. The vernal pool habitat needs to be adjusted to 125 feet.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I think we need an exact count of the trees that were marked. And then I did send an email about the bylaw supplement form. It doesn't have the 0 to 50 and 50 to 100 disturbance breakdown. So we need a corrected bylaw supplement form as well.
I saw that, Judy. I was wondering, because with the whole area that we're talking about as within that, between the wetland line and the street, is all within the 50 and the 100. It's kind of like a calculation. That's, in fact, the only thing that's not within the 50 is that little quadrangle that's in the front of the lot. Other than that, the whole thing is in the 50-foot buffer zone. So, well, if you want me to make that calculation, I would. I just thought I'd just put in the number for the whole upland area that's in that where the house is being built. So,
yeah, I think we just complete the paperwork and have it all there.
Okay, is that the only thing, Judy?
Yep, that was everything on my list.
Okay.
I can chair.
Yes.
Maybe you were going to do this. I just wanted to make sure that you asked if there was any input from the public that maybe we should hear before we wrap this one up.
Yeah, thank you, Ted. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Oh, I see a hand. Yes, Bruce Holmgren. You can unmute and go ahead and sit. I think you're still muted there.
There you go. Thank you. Yep. Yes, Bruce Holmgren, 9 North Mill Street. My primary concern has been the maintaining the integrity of the intermittent stream. And so anything that is done with this particular arrangement or the other arrangement in which the lot was developed in the back concerned me a great deal. In fact, the talk about additional trees, the reason that there are no trees in the front is that that area, even though it's not wetlands, it's prone to flooding on an occasional basis, enough that there's nothing much of any size that's grown there in the last 50 years. It was part of the original farm, but that area in the middle here had no cows and it had no corn because nothing could to grow there. So anyway, I'm still concerned about what happens to that intermittent stream, both off the property and on it. The proposal originally that was developed was to have the house in the back, and I realized that had a much bigger disruption in the wetlands in the center. But Mr. Petrosi's proposal to install a box culvert seemed to be a workable solution to that. Maybe not. I'd leave that to you folks to decide. Anyway, I just want to make a point that that intermittent stream should be protected, because that area, the water just flares out all over the place, really. It's not quite as constrained as it shows on the drawing here. That's the summary of my thoughts here.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. And we'll have to consider that with the plantings, as you said, what makes sense.
Yeah, I think bigger trees, more bigger trees. In this case, I'm a big tree lover. We've got a lot of big trees on our side of the road, but here, I'm not sure. It may it may meet one objective, but it also potentially would have an impact on that stream, and I wouldn't like to see that happen.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? No, okay. Hearing none, then can I get a motion to continue this out to January 6th?
So moved.
Through the chair.
And second.
Oh, yes, Anna.
Mr. Petrosi, are you also asking to continue the soil access for soil testing hearing as well?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Okay. Can we just continue both of those? Please make that amendment.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to close or to continue the other notice of intent filing as well.
And I will second.
All right, all in favor. Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
And I am also an aye.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'll get those revised plans to you as soon as possible so we can have a conversation on the 6th.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, every. Have a nice holiday.
Yep, you too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, that wraps up our continued hearings. So we're going to jump back down to work session. We are up to Legacy Farms Road project change request.
Good evening. This is Mark Arn with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Legacy Farms LLC for this change request. Glad to give the commission an introduction unless Judy or Joe would like to.
Nope, I think go ahead.
Great. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen. If I could just get that request. I'm just going to share basically the letter we submitted, which has some tables, which is helpful to understand the matter, as well as just some photographs in the plan. Looks like sharing is still turned off right now.
Yeah, I'm okay with it, Judy.
There we go. Excellent. Thank you so much. So we submitted this letter back on November 24th. So just to recap what where this kind of lands in terms. So we had we're working under an enforcement order with this commission, which we appreciate you granted to us to allow us to close out the wetland mitigation and monitoring on the property. And one of the things that we had to document to confirm compliance was the BLSF mitigation area that was to be constructed for the Legacy Farms South Road. This was for the major pond crossing at the South Road, and the confirming that the BLSF area had been built correctly in terms of did the bank get restored as required? Did the land under water bodies get restored required? And also did BLSF get mitigated as required? So we've been working with Control Point for quite a few months now on getting some detailed plans that have multiple pieces of information on them to help the commission understand what was there before, what's there now, what would you delineate the wetlands and resource areas as of today, so you can confirm that the actual areas were correctly restored or mitigated appropriately, but also the floodplain calculations, which took a little bit of back and forth in terms of figuring out what was actually done and where they're actually field errors made in the field or something else, because we did find some discrepancies in terms of the BLSF grading that was for the mitigation. I can report that we do believe, based on the as-built, they did not fill more BLSF than they were supposed to. So in terms of what the project was supposed to do in terms of impacts, that did not change. But in terms of what was supposed to be mitigated, there was some discrepancies that we'd like to kind of walk the commission through as to what we found, because there's a few ways to look at the discrepancies in terms of the volume of the floodplain being mitigated and how that could be remedied or left in place potentially, just because of the way the actual volume is actually mitigated in terms of the actual area itself. So just to recap for the commission, so this mitigation area was built back in 2014. VHB was on site. They did some reports, and it's unclear if they were even watching carefully the volume of the BLSF being mitigated. But basically, you can see on the left side of the screen here, this is the approved grading plan and planting plan for the BLSF area. And you can see how flat this area is along this lower section up to this contour here, which is your floodplain contour here. And you can see here that this contour is actually pushing out to near the 100-foot buffer zone from the original bank of the pond. So it was supposed to flatten out quite a bit from the pond and then slope up from there in the back here. And then the bank restoration and land under water bodies had this kind of eccentric kind of a pond extension, kind of like a lagoon that was going to be in there with wildlife habitat features and all of that there. So in terms of what was built, we have basically kind of two conditions. One is we went out to the site, and if you look at it a year and a half ago, it looked basically what was supposed to be there. There was a lagoon area and kind of a wetland area, and then it transitioned to upland. This year, if you go out there, you'll find the whole area underwater. Like the water has gone up about a foot or so because the beavers have actually dammed up the lower reaches of the wetland. So this table I kind of did in two different ways, just so the commission understands there's kind of weird conditions going on where we have conditions that are artificial by the beavers. And so either way, basically, we comply with what's supposed to be there, close to that. In terms of if you don't have the beaver activity, the bank restoration is a little bit under what it's supposed to be. If you have the beaver activity, it's there. So it's and in terms of that, that's basically right on par in terms of what was supposed to be there. Land under water bodies, it meets it regardless of whatever condition we're on, whether it's beaver activity or not. And the other thing is we have actually wetland replication that was artificially made by what was graded here. So they actually built wetlands without intending to on the site plans. And so at this point, right now, it's 250 square feet because it's flooded out. But if the pond drops down, you actually end up with more wetlands in this area, 1,700 square feet. So we just wanted to let the commission know. We told the commission we would delineate these areas, resource areas, and we actually didn't just delineate the bank. We actually delineated BVW as well because we actually found BVW upgrading the pond that was created by the actual work. So as a net result, there was more BVW made as part of this mitigation, although it was never proposed. So on page 5 of our letter, I have this table, and I know it may look large, so I'm just going to walk through it. And I think some of the commission may find it educational in terms of understanding BLSF work. So BLSF mitigation and work requires that no fill be placed at in the floodplain, and if you do place fill, you have to mitigate at 1 foot intervals at a minimum. So this table here basically walks you through the 1 foot intervals of where the impacts work. So we worked in the floodplain from 272 up to 278.9, which is the FEMA floodplain elevation on the plans. So in every interval, we have an approved fill. So this was the approved number here. This first column here is what was supposed to occur as part of the roadway work, and that was 10,524 cubic feet. The approved cut, basically per the order of conditions, was to basically almost double the amount of floodplain volume on site to 24,200. And you can see here, basically every interval, there is a negative number. A negative number meaning larger floodplain volume on the site. And you can see here that basically each of these numbers is larger than the column to your left. So your fill is either the same or smaller than your cut to ensure that you do not fill the floodplain. So now under the as-built conditions, and this is the current conditions as of today, we basically have all the floodplain mitigated except for this top elevation here, which is 278 to 278.9. But when you look at the total floodplain mitigated, we do actually comply with the order of conditions. So there's a sense of we do comply with the volume net. We just do not comply with the 1 foot intervals at this location right here. And that's if you look at apples to apples, which is what was basically filled versus what was actually cut. If we were to comply with the order of conditions explicitly, we would have 2 intervals that we'd have to mitigate for at 277 to 278 and 278 to 278.9. And the reason why we split these up is we wanted to kind of help the commission understand that there's kind of 2 ways to have compliance under the act and under the bylaw. One is to fully comply with the order of conditions and require disturbance and regrading in these 2 elevation contours to create more floodplain storage, or to actually mitigate only at this upper contour for 527 cubic feet of volume, and you end up with a net result still of basically being more volume than proposed. And just for this sense of understanding that volume is actually created at lower elevations in the floodplain. So as the floodplain is rising, the mitigation is proposed lower down, which means the smaller floods are mitigated better, and the higher floods are basically already mitigated at a lower elevation, which means your net flooding at multiple storm levels is actually better than just mitigating only what's minimal at each elevation of the floodplain. So that's what we've discovered basically as part of our as-built review. Basically, what was did they do what they were supposed to do in terms of building the roadway? Yes, they did. So they didn't fill any more. We wanted to make sure that was correct. And then the question is, did they actually mitigate everything correctly? And it looks like what happened is when they got the lagoon all graded out, they built that area, they didn't pull the slopes back the way they were supposed to. And that was really only at these upper elevation intervals. So in terms of the conditions in this area, basically going back to here, so we have a very well-established vegetated slope upgrading of the BVW around this lagoon with nice maturing white pines and other native shrubs and stuff in the understory there. And we've managed the invasives in this whole area right now. So it's coming along really nicely in terms of just naturally establishing itself. And because of that, we wanted to bring the commission kind of an inquiry and request, which was if we could only mitigate this area here to comply with the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw, and still have a net volume of mitigation. So we would meet the net volume, we'd meet the minimum requirements of the intervals. We just would be mitigating at lower elevations rather than higher elevations. If we could do that, that results in less disturbance to close out this mitigation item as a whole. And what we've looked at is also, is there a place we could do this where we can minimize disturbance to mature vegetation, trees, shrubs, and native areas? And what we've come up with is actually there is an area that is right along that crossing. If you've been on Legacy Farm South, right near the crossing, there's this nice gravel parking area. It's like about 3 car spaces. And it has access to the walking trails. And this area outside of this kind of parking area just below it is actually dropping into the floodplain itself in these areas. And you can see here, it's actually fairly open. And these are some photos we had taken actually when we were installing the habitat features in the area, just to show you that basically this is an area that's mostly herbaceous, overgrown kind of meadow area. It was part of the, again, nursery area. It was pretty heavily disturbed. The edges have kind of filled in and grown up a little bit, but the most of this area is kind of a trail junction and an open area. And what we'd like to do is to basically build a floodplain mitigation area in this location that would basically avoid us from really having to take down any major trees, minimalistic damage to shrubs. And in terms of that, we would actually be transplanting the shrubs and putting them back in place once we did grading. And it's so to end up making a very small envelope. And so this is kind of what we had in terms of that. And actually, so my apologies, I should have shown you the actual as-built here. So this is actually the as-built of the mitigation area that was built. And you can see here, this is the lagoon coming in here, coming in there, and coming back out. Here's your bank and wetland flags here. The edge of the water.
Mark, are you showing us a plan?
Oh,
not
sorry.
a picture. Right now, we're just seeing a picture.
You know what? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what?
Yeah, sometimes see it.
There we go. I'm sorry. I changed the PDF plan, but I forgot that I have to share individual files, which is actually nice. It is actually good that way. Zoom does a good job with that. So my apologies. So I'm sorry. Let me just take the step back a bit. So what actually was built? So this is what was built. You have this lagoon here. It comes up like this, and this is where the edge of water is, where my cursor is. This is where the edge of water was last summer. And then when the beavers came in, the water flooded out to actually up here and up to here. So basically right now we have a larger pond because the beavers flooded the pond actually higher. So the whole pond rose. And because we made this nice flat area here, this is basically wetlands if the pond isn't flooded out. It's actually really nice speckled alder and stuff like that, all stuff that's used to heavy flooding in that area. And then this is that slope here, which is all has the white pines and the other native herbaceous and woody vegetation. There's a lot of like blackberry in there as well in this area here. And so basically you can see on this plan here, these contours are very tight to each other. And this is where these contours were supposed to be pulled back farther into this hillside here. So rather than going back to this same location and opening up this whole hillside to pull the contours back to mitigate where the mitigation was supposed to be built, we'd like to basically go on the other side of the road into this area where we've got this. Here's the parking area right here. Here's those larger trees which we can leave in place. Here's this trail connection path right here. And here's the existing the tree line here. And basically we've got some overhanging canopy right here from trees that are leaning in, and basically a lot of meadow area right in here. So we'd like to basically regrade this area here to provide the floodplain compensatory storage for that elevation of 278 to 278.9, to provide that mitigation that would comply with the regulations to the minimal standard, while also still providing the net volume that was originally required. So in terms of compliance, if you look at the actual like order of conditions, it has like your net volume of floodplain. So we are going to meet that net volume. It's just the intervals are going to be changing because we prefer not to go back and disturb possibly 10, 15,000 square feet or more of area to regrade the area by the mitigation area, because it's a steep slope, which requires a lot of grading to pull back the slope to drop the elevations where the floodplain is. So this area is basically lower in elevation, so we're able to quickly cut in these grades very smoothly with very little. By the time we're done, it's not going to be that noticeable, and basically get the flooding all mitigated in that respect. Our plan is to have this supervised by Goddard Consulting. We're going to basically, any native trees, any native shrubs and small saplings that are here, we would move them out of the way, do the grading, put them back in place, and basically restore everything back to the same thing. Add your native seed mix, conservation seed mix, and then maintain the paths that are there, which are the native walking trails, which are really used by the community there. But that's basically what our request is basically, could we mitigate the BLSF over in this area and hopefully save a lot of disturbance from complying in the other area. And we think that's a reasonable request that would mitigate what's necessary here to comply, and make sure that the applicant does comply with your order, at the same time understanding the mitigating circumstances of the net level disturbance that happens there. And again, it's unfortunate that it was, when it was being supervised with VHB and other people there at the time, again, back in 2014, 2013, that this wasn't caught back then. So that's our request. We think it's simple. It's we do have the buffer zones shown here, just so the commission knows. So we are in the 50-foot buffer here, but we are holding to the existing brush line in that 50-foot buffer. Otherwise, we're in the outer buffer zone in that area there. This is basically bank of that pond there, very steep slopes. There's no change of wetland delineation there. And then we did show the old wetland lines back here, just again to show you that we're still far away from anything else that was known to be wetlands there. So hopefully I was able to give a clear enough description. Again, this was a lot, so if there are questions from Lucas or Judy, we understand that. Yeah, any questions, glad to take them now.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand where it's going, but I'm gonna turn to Joe Orzel to get his thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I'm reviewing this now. I haven't completed. I guess first comment is with respect to the area that's proposed for the additional storage. I know there are some trees out there. It is shrubby, but there are some primarily box elder. We did go out and look at that with the site walk with Goddard Consulting, and Judy and Anna were out there on the site walk also. So there are some trees in there, but like I said, primarily boxwood trees, box elder trees. Sorry. I'm confused by table 3. I guess is one of my biggest questions as far as where some of the numbers are coming from. And I know that there was some explanation there, but with respect to primarily the let's see, the last 3 columns with the as-built actual, the as-built approved, the cut, and what's required to comply. So maybe some explanation on how those numbers were determined, because I'm trying to figure out the actual. If you look at the differences, for instance, as built, the actual fill, as built approved cut, okay, and then you have the approved cut in column 3. I'm just trying to see where the differences are, where the differences equate between those two in the next column. So I think just maybe some more information on where those numbers, how those numbers were derived. And maybe I'm just not understanding it and other people do, but that was one of my big questions looking at this initially.
Yeah, understood. And if Joe needs more time, Melissa, glad to give him time to look at this. We know it's kind of a confusing table. This table was confusing even for me to develop, and I can see some of the differences, and I'm looking at some of the wording. I think I probably should. I think the best thing is for me to update this table with some more clerical notes about where each column was kind of derived and the reasoning behind it. Just to make sure it's clear as to what's going on. I guess the main thing, I guess, is if you look at these first 3 columns, Joe, I think that's the kind of the meat of it, which is you can see right here that as you go down this as-built column, these numbers are larger than to the immediate left. They're larger, and then right here is where we fall short, right here.
Right, and I think those
right here is
3 columns, I think are pretty straightforward. It's the remaining columns where it gets a little confusing, at least for me, and how those were derived.
Yep. Yeah, it was an interval kind of thing that we had to look at. But yeah, I think, Joe, I understood. So I think we can definitely get you something revised tomorrow just to walk through those tables again. I'll have someone else at my office look through it just to give a different balanced view. Probably different.
And it may be just the labeling too. It may be just the labeling that's throwing me off. I don't know.
Yep.
But that would be helpful. I think that was pretty much my questions at this point.
Okay. I just have a quick, I guess, bigger picture question. I think what you're saying makes sense for this 527 number and kind of moving that from one area to another at the same elevation. It makes sense. But the required to fully comply with the order of conditions, because this was from so long ago, why would the order of conditions have a different number than the Wetland Protection Act, I guess? Do you know where that comes from?
So I guess the order of conditions required more mitigation than what was minimally required by the bylaw and the act. And that's something that this whole project had, which was a lot of mitigation because there were a lot of extenuating circumstances about this project. There were multiple crossings, there was old disturbance and all these things. And also this project had larger wetland impacts originally proposed that were withdrawn and reduced when the final order of conditions was issued. And so my understanding from looking at the files, I believe that this over mitigation was actually kind of left over from the original grand mitigation scheme that was designed as part of this massive site with a lot more impacts that ended up getting reduced down to small areas. And I think they decided that, you know what, this is one area where it's easy just to keep the mitigation without actually reducing it to kind of balance out what's actually occurring.
Also, a little bit more history on Eric Swenson from Legacy Farms LLC. A lot of the land that was left over as open space was supposed to be used as agricultural land, and that did not come to fruition. So a lot of that land has been renaturalized in that process. So in doing so, I believe that because of that. A lot of these were assuming that land was going to continue to be used, and since it hasn't, we've far exceeded what has been allowed to go back into naturalization at this point.
I think, yeah. I was just gonna say, I think that would be helpful to add as we're looking at this and making a decision, because I have a hard time just saying, oh, no, you don't need to make that condition anymore. But if there's some reasoning behind it, and like you were saying, if there's other things that were done in place of this that we can say that take the place of that condition, it would probably make me feel a little bit better. But just looking at this presented the way it is right now, I feel like just kind of throwing to the wind what the commission wanted done back then. And I don't really like doing that.
So just to clarify that, Melissa, I think a little bit is basically it's these two intervals that are not in compliance with the original commission intent. So that's the first thing, is it's just these bottom two lines here. That's where the discrepancy is, because you can see here that what was supposed to happen was 5,100 cubic feet of cut, but only 4,113 cubic feet were cut. So there's a loss of floodplain at that interval. However, if you look at the interval just before that, we actually exceeded the cut at the lower interval by 1,000 cubic feet of volume. So that's why when you look at the totals, we actually have more floodplain volume, but it's at a lower elevation. But the Wetlands Protection Act doesn't say you can do that. It says you have to do them at the 1 foot intervals. And so, again, our plan, and I guess this is where I think one thing we missed in the clerical information was our plan does have grading from 277 to 278 and 278 to 278.9. So we are actually mitigating at both of those intervals, but we're only going to mitigate the bare minimum to comply with this column, this row right here. So you can see right here, we filled 2615 cubic feet at this interval. We've already mitigated 4,913 cubic feet. So we've well mitigated that interval already. However, this interval here, we're short by 527 cubic feet. So if you compare what was filled to what was actually built, we are technically short at that interval. So reading the law regulations, this is absolutely a non-compliance issue, and it has to be resolved in some manner. But if we wanted to comply with the order of conditions, then we'd have to mitigate at both of these intervals. And so we're trying to reduce the interval mitigation to still comply with the Wetlands Protection Act, which is making sure that this column is mitigated, which it has been except for down here, by only mitigating this elevation versus chasing elevations down below to 277, which ends up expanding our grading area. The lower in elevation we go on this site for floodplain mitigation, the larger the disturbance is, and it's like it's an exponential number basically. If you have 500 cubic feet, if we're doing 200 cubic feet at this elevation, it actually ends up being like 10,000 square feet of disturbance, because we have to chase the grading to find the volume on the site, no matter where we look at it. So in terms of that, so again, complying with the order is, we'd have to follow these numbers here in this middle column right here. But if we could only if we only have to match this column here at this interval, you'll end up with more floodplain volume net, plus all your intervals will be mitigated. So the intent of the approval was to mitigate all the intervals and increase the floodplain. We're doing the exact same thing, just at different intervals. And in this case, the intervals are actually better because they're lower in elevation. So you could mitigate up here, but the best mitigation is down here. And that's where we have significant volume mitigation in terms of that. So if there's a flood, the floodplain is going to be coming up very slowly in this top interval, because we have so much volume down below that we've made as part of the actual conditions that are out there right now. So does that help?
No, I understand what you're saying. I also feel like they wouldn't break it out into requiring it at these intervals unless there was a reason to do that. Otherwise, it would just be one big category. So just in order to feel comfortable with that piece about complying with the OOC, I just want to be careful and make sure we're not undoing something that was intentionally required. And that's at least for me, the piece that I'm stumbling on. But maybe when Joe reviews a little bit more, he might be able to add some clarity to and look at it from that perspective. I don't want to, it's getting late. We still have a few other things, and I know we're going to continue and have more time to think about this. So we'll digest it some more. I do want to open it up and see if anyone else on the commission has questions, comments for Mark between now and the next meeting to think about.
I don't have any questions, Melissa, but just a comment.
Sure.
Not knowing the history of this project, but if I'm looking at it just as it applies to the act and the bylaw, it appears to me that what's being proposed would be in compliance with the requirements for compensatory flood storage.
Okay.
And that the original approval, and this happens all the time, that when you're trying to do compensatory flood storage, inevitably you provide more at the lower elevations, just because the way you have to grade the site to get there. That's just generally what I've seen happen. Mm-hmm. Those upper elevations are the hardest to accomplish. So I think it is from that perspective, if we're compliant with the approved fill, at least at the square foot or cubic foot to cubic foot perspective, then not knowing the history, that this would be consistent with the requirements.
Okay. No, that's helpful. I haven't worked much in this, so and it does make sense that you would end up doing more at the lower elevations. I can visualize that and see that happening. I just don't have the background on, if that's acceptable, to count that.
Yeah, you wouldn't
instead of the higher.
Yeah, you wouldn't count the lower elevation instead of the higher. But if I'm reading this chart correctly, and I think I am, right? If you look elevation by elevation, the fill, the two that matter are the approved fill column and the as-built cut column. And as long as that cut column exceeds the fill column, you'd be compliant with the compensatory flood storage requirements in the act of the bylaw. Where it's not compliant is that 278 to 279. That's the issue. That needs to get into compliance to meet the regulations. And to get that in compliance, they're inevitably providing more volume at the 277 to 278, just the way the grading needs to be done to get there.
Great.
So it's gravy on top, all that additional volume. But the key is that upper 0.9 feet needs to get into compliance.
So the question that we're being asked is if that upper 0.9 not being in compliance with our order of conditions is okay.
No, Melissa, we're asking, can we mitigate only that area to bring the site into compliance with that interval? We want to bring that area into compliance by doing this grading. However, we don't want to have to match this middle column here with our as-built column. That's what we're asking for relief on, because if we have to meet the actual grading that was originally proposed in a volume standpoint, you can see here we're supposed to have 8,000 cubic feet at this elevation, which is, again, your highest elevation is your hardest elevation to mitigate. They were almost doubling that flood, the volume up there. And we would like to just only mitigate 1-to-1 up at that top end elevation interval versus go up larger. If we do this interval, we're looking at 15,000 square feet or more of buffer zone work to regrade and build BLSF mitigation. And when you look at the total, we've actually exceeded the total proposed already. So we're going to match, per the act, the left column, and also provide the net volume. And it's just, instead of having 8,000 up here, we have it down here. It's down here in these numbers here. And that's actually better for everything, because if you have a 50-year storm and whatever, if say the floodplain goes up to 273, 274, well, it actually may not go up that high because we've actually mitigated more down there, because we only filled 260, but we actually added 2,437 cubic feet. So it's actually a net benefit to have more mitigation lower in the floodplain than this massive almost doubling at the top in terms of the actual functions of the actual area. So again, we're going to fully comply with the Wetlands Protection Act and the Act requirements. We're just looking for relief in terms of matching the actual proposed grading volumes in terms of the intervals that were there, which were quite large up top here, and that's where the excessive grading was coming in. And we looked at it and said that's a lot of disturbance, and so we said we should look at an alternative that may actually be better for everything. We think is in terms of just the net disturbance at this point. So. Okay. Looking forward to any other members of the commission have questions, feel glad to take them down. And again, we'll continue this discussion in January.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't think we have to vote on continuing because this is just a work session.
Just making sure that Ted or Ed didn't have any questions.
I'm good. I think I started catching on to that discussion in the second half of it. I'm good, and I look forward to hearing what Joe has to say.
Thank you, Ted.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, next up we have 0 Wilson Street. This is the trails request for certificate of compliance. All right, do we have anyone on the call for this to present?
Peter earlier.
Oh yeah, I see him. Peter, you here?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not using my computer, so I'm trying to use my phone. But we have completed our work back in the fall of 24, and this is for the work at 0 Wilson, which is land that is owned by the town of Ashland. But stormwater from the trails entered onto this property, traveled east to the box culvert. Well, actually, originally traveled west, down to the water treatment plant as part of an Ashland Public Works project. Oh God, it was probably 8 to 10 years before the Trails project was done. And this water seemed to us to have naturally wanted to go to the east. So the rework that we did here was to bring that water back east to the box culvert. The work on the north side of Wilson Street, Howe Street, is in the town of Ashland. We had a separate order of conditions for that work, and that work was completed in the same timeline, and we have received our certificate of compliance, and that's recorded for that. Now it's time to get the area to the south. Beta did a review. We addressed their concerns, and I've further complied with that in that Beta was unable to assess the vegetation because of the timing when they were there. I did provide some photography that we had showing that all the plants were still healthy in the fall of 25 after the drought that we've had in the summer of 25. But I still made a further commitment, because we still have to get a COC for the overall trails project at some point in the future, that when we do go to get that, I have no problem revisiting this area and seeing if there's any vegetation that's in distress and replacing it, so that we can just give you more assurance that we're not trying to just get this work done and off the list. We're trying to get this work done and have it done right. A lot of effort went into creating this area, and we want to stand by it. But I would like to try to get this paperwork completed and get the certificate recorded, because it is land that we do not own. So I would look forward to your approval of this request this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Judy, do you have anything to add to that? Particularly, I know you've been out there, so you've seen the planting areas. Do you want to speak to them?
Yeah, not much to add. We just had Beta do this review because they had reviewed the NOI originally. Concur that they said the swale was constructed as approved and it's functioning correctly. They didn't say they didn't find the plantings, just that they couldn't confirm the health of the plantings due to the time of year. But we're out there all the time and haven't necessarily been looking at the plantings, but haven't noticed like any massive die-offs or bare spots or anything like that.
Okay. All right. I think I'm good with this one. I'll open it up to commission members if anyone has any questions or comments. Anyone from the public? No. Okay. With that, I will ask for a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 0 Wilson Street with signatures by Judy or Anna.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
A second.
All right. All in favor, Ed? Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
Ted is an aye.
And I'm also an aye.
Great. Thank you. Enjoy your holidays.
Yes, you too.
Yep. Good night.
Aye.
Next up, we have Nation Whisperway subdivision request for certificate of compliance.
Hello, this is Mark Arnold again here on behalf of the applicant.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So this is a request for the Whisperway subdivision order of conditions issued back in 2019. So this project had kind of two parts to it. One was the widening of the existing Whisperway roadway to conform to planning board requirements for a subdivision. This resulted in a widening of the crossing and some wetland impacts. As part of that crossing, we had wildlife culverts put in to allow wildlife movement through the crossing because there were retaining walls there. That area there also had a stormwater basin, which you can see on the screen in front of you. And that work is basically all been completed in substantial compliance with the order of conditions. And there was one other minor wetland impact up in the bottom left corner of your screen there. You'll see the orange lines there. There was a small wetland impact there again because we widened out the crossing there. That was an odd stream situation where you have a spillage from a wetland with a vernal pool off property on the conservation land that spilled across into a culvert and underneath the roadway. So that was designed with the engineers to have an overflow from the wetland so that way we didn't drain or cause any disturbance to that hydrology. And we had some minor, it was like 170 square feet of wetland fill there. So that was the main Whisperway project. And then as part of the subdivision, there was also a common driveway that was built as part of the two lots on the other side. And this was done to prevent having a loop subdivision road that would have looped the whole property, had a major second wetland crossing near the lower vernal pool, and everything else. So that crossing has now been completed. It's just a common driveway, so very narrow kind of asphalt roadway. We have a very engineered and controlled stream crossing that allowed us to basically maintain the vernal pool elevation. We've been monitoring that vernal pool elevation for the last 5 years. We've seen no changes in terms of the elevation of the water in that vernal pool through all the vernal pool seasons out there, which has been great. So that wetland is working well. The crossing's working well there. And as you may remember from a few weeks ago, that's where the accident happened with the truck. So as part of this project, we had, again, several wetland crossings. So we have a wetland replication area. Because we had work near the vernal pools as well, we did have some reforestation mitigation as well as part of that. If I could share my screen again, I think I'd just like to quickly walk through some of the photographs of the area. And then I think it might be best to have Joe kind of give the commission where we are in terms of his comments. There were some issues that he thought just the commission should discuss, and glad to provide some more updates there. So the first one I'm going to show is the replication area report. So just so you can see what the replication area looks like, this is from July of, this is not, sorry, wrong year. Here we go, 2025, July of this year. Here's the replication area here. Very good establishment of herbaceous vegetation, diversity of species, valorous vegetation. We actually found a bird's nest active actually in July there, which was kind of neat, kind of tucked in there. So that's been coming along well. We did have some high mortality of plantings, but otherwise the area is established really well and healthily in terms of everything else. We do have 75% wetland vegetated coverage in the area, good hydrology, and it's definitely continuing to develop as we've gone through the years. It's been monitored for 4 years now. So it's been quite a bit. It's hard to remember when we built it. I was there, but I don't remember the exact year. But we've been there for at least 3-4 years now. So it's definitely coming along really well. We've been managing some minor invasive species by hand pulling, and the nations have also been very good at being proactive and going around and hand pulling when we're not even there during the months that we're not monitoring. So that's been really good to see there. So that's the replication area, and then the reforestation area, it was in a different report. So we did have again high mortality in the plantings in terms of some of the shrubs. We do have 78 trees and 37 shrubs now there. We were supposed to have 53 trees and 133 shrubs. And just to help you see what the area is, this is what the area looks like now. And just so you know, this picture here, the nations had been trying to keep some paths open so they could walk through the areas in transects to look for invasives and stuff like that. They might have been a little zealous about mowing this versus kind of brush cutting it to kind of give the path. This didn't cause the plantings to be like, clustered in other areas. It's just kind of like, your natural path between plantings was just kind of kept more open so they could actually walk around and see things a little better. They're not planning on keeping these paths open. They've ceased all the mowing there, but that's what they were doing just to help with the maintenance, particularly on the invasives to monitor there. And here's another example here. So you can see it's not the whole thing being mowed or anything. It's just some strategic paths that were put through, but didn't impact necessarily. We didn't reduce plantings, didn't really move them around. We just kind of had paths where we could actually had space between plantings that were put in the ground. So those are the in net summary. That's the request. Again, the stormwater system's been inspected by the professional engineer. He's submitted a certification that everything there is in good working order. The stormwater basin's all in good shape. Roadway's all in good shape, and we're hoping to get the road accepted at the spring town meeting. So we're looking to get our certificate of compliance for the project. And again, Joe, I know, has a few things that I think that Commission could discuss in terms of that. And then Joe, I can definitely kind of opine as you walk through some of those items just to add a little more information, just to clarify some of the stuff that we've been working on and collecting. And in some situations, we had some data that we were not able to gather because we just couldn't find the vernal pool species breeding where we thought they'd actually be breeding. So Joe, I think if you want to take that over, I think that this might be a good spot to hand that over.
Yeah, Joe, I'll turn it over to you if you could give us high-level comments.
Yeah, I think we had requested in our previous comments some additional information, and some of that was submitted. So the yearly monitoring reports for the crossing areas were submitted, and they revised the plan to fix the labeling on the as-built plan with regard to the existing condition for some of the drives. So those items were addressed. I think the outstanding items are really items that I had previously mentioned for the conservation to discuss, and Conservation Commission to discuss. I don't know if you want me to go through those one by one or how you'd like me to look at that, to address that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go through the.
Okay, so there were erosion control barriers, the mulch, filter tubes, and straw wattles. The applicant has responded that all the plastic has been removed. Apparently, the filter tubes, the mulch tubes, and straw were left in place. So just noted the Conservation Commission to discuss whether or not they want those mulch filter tubes removed or not. Apparently, it was only the plastic that was removed from the applicant's response. With respect to the replication area, the wetland replication area, the native vegetation coverage looks good and appears to satisfy the 75% wetland coverage. There was quite a bit of mortality on the trees. So the Conservation Commission should discuss whether or not the replication area meets the desired functional requirements of what was approved, which is how it was stated in the condition that it needs to meet the design functional requirements, although those And then there were a lot of trees proposed. The low rate of survival for the woody vegetation may indicate that it's not functioning in the way that the commission had expected. So that is something to discuss. Let's see. A similar comment regarding the upland area to be reforested. The number of surviving shrubs, it was well below the required planting number. And again, is that functioning in a way that the commission intended with respect to the number of plantings that were required? There's also the mowed paths that were showed. And I think it was indicated that those are going to be left to naturalize. And should those be replanted, those are fairly wide. Should some additional plantings go into those areas? There was a note on some invasive vegetation that was noted along the edge of the reforestation area. There was some an area of oriental bittersweet multiflora rose. The applicant has responded that the invasive species measurement plan was implemented with good success, and the edges of the existing wooded areas were not managed to the maximum extent practicable. However, this is not the edge of the existing wooded area; it's in the edge of the reforestation area. So the commission should discuss whether or not they should have some additional management in that one location. Let's see. Commission to discuss whether the project engineer should confirm that the clay dams and seepage collars were installed properly at the crossings. The homeowners agreement was supposed to have been submitted. Apparently the O&M plan was submitted, but I don't know that the homeowners agreement was commissioned to discuss that. And regarding the vernal pools, vernal pool number 2 met the requirements for certification during several inspections. We were not aware whether the vernal pool certification documentation was submitted to the Conservation Commission. Apparently that was certified in 2024. The conditions, I think, required that the documentation be submitted. Vernal pool number 3, which is on the town land, also met certification requirements during several of the inspections, but apparently that was not certified as it was off-site, and Goddard Consulting has stated that they can provide that data to the town if requested. And vernal pool number 1 was the one that was not found to meet the requirements for certification. However, they only did apparently only did one inspection annually, rather than, typically we do at least 2, sometimes 3, and when you're trying to certify a vernal pool, just to spread those inspections out a little bit and try and be sure you don't miss anything. They also did not look at those apparently with respect to facultative species method for certification, which may have allowed them to certify that vernal pool or to find sufficient evidence to certify that vernal pool. So the discussion point there is whether or not additional information should be looked at for that vernal pool regarding certification. And I think that covered it. Sorry that took so long.
That's okay. Thanks, Joe.
So Melissa, as you work through these items, glad to just add a little more color to that as you work through each one. But I think it might be better for you to maybe start with each one versus me trying to go through any type of clarification that may be good. Just to add color to some of the what we actually wrote and some of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, so I guess the ones that jump out at me, the vernal pool certification seems to me like that number one needs a little more investigation.
Yeah, so I talked to our biologists about this, and this past spring in 2025, they spent a lot of extra time out there this spring looking and trying to find enough egg masses, and they couldn't find enough egg masses out there. They did find egg masses of salamanders breeding in that vernal pool. However, we did not find enough egg masses to certify the vernal pool per natural heritage requirements. And that's the criteria there. And this vernal pool is basically, it's a shelved vernal pool on the hillside. It's shallower than the other vernal pools on site and off site. So it has a longer duration. So we found egg masses. It's possible that they are not even viable or they hatch at all because of the shallowness of the water. We've been there for 5 years. We had other biologists look at this too. So there's been 3 biologists on this site looking at these areas, and really our biologist's opinion is that it's really the vernal pool is just, it's not the greatest vernal pool, and that's why the species are going to the other vernal pools nearby. I mean, the other 2 vernal pools are within about 300 feet of this one. So you have 3 vernal pools, and there's 2 better ones nearby. So if you have species moving across the site, it's a lot safer to go to a deeper pool and breed there than go to a shallower pool and breed in a shallower pool in terms of just the species there. So, I mean, I mean, we could attempt to ask Natural Heritage, say, hey, this is what we have. Can you just certify? I mean, they may be fine with just certifying it with the information that we have. But in technicality, I asked our biologists, like it's really, there's just not enough there. And again, he looked at it from, again, what is this? Do I expect this pool to be something that's popping with lots of species? And the answer is no, because it's a very small pool with very small, deep pockets. Most of it's very shallow, dries out quickly. So viability wise, it's a low quality vernal pool that may only work for really wet springs where the water does stay deep enough, long enough. And in terms of what the wildlife is likely to do, they're going to lean towards the areas that are clearly more likely to have longer viability for water. So that's kind of the situation there. Either way, it doesn't impact the project. The project was designed assuming this was a vernal pool. There's no other work that's approved or proposed in this area at all. We're not going to be doing any work of the house lots that have stuff that's already been done. So there's no other work within 125 feet, 150 feet of this vernal pool anyway. So that's the kind of condition that we're in right now. Is basically the 2 biologists went out this spring and they told me they were really trying hard to find it. They were looking everywhere. They were there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was more alluding to the, Joe made mention that just going out once to inspect and look versus, a couple times at different times of year was more my hang up, I think. So if that's the case, I guess I was curious if that was the case, if it was one trip.
Yeah, I think we didn't have. Yeah, I guess our documentation that was approved didn't necessarily say how many visits we were going if we were to do more than one. I don't think it mentioned multiple visits.
Okay, well, maybe you can look into that and respond to Joe. I just want to make sure.
Yep, and we can talk to Natural Heritage too again, and whether this pool is certified or not, it doesn't mean anything to us. So we're glad to certify. Yeah. It's just a question of the data. And so we can also reach out to Natural Heritage to say, hey, is this enough data for us to certify the vernal pool? If that's the case, then maybe we can do that. And then it just resolves the issue.
Yep. Okay. The HOA, was that not submitted yet?
So there's no homeowners association for the subdivision because it's going to be a town accepted road. So we did submit a signed O&M from the owners, the Nations, who are managing and have been managing this property since it was started construction. They've been doing all the maintenance and all the upkeep, and they expect the road to be accepted by the town at the spring town meeting. And at that point, the town would take over the operation and maintenance of the subdivision. So we don't think a homeowners agreement is necessary for that in terms of that, because the homeowners are not associated with the maintenance of the roadway itself. So that was.
Does that include the stormwater? Because I know a lot of times.
Yeah. So the
town requires.
the stormwater basin is, I believe, it's all designed to be per planning board. So I think it from my understanding, I guess, and Craig, you may be able to opine, but I believe that the stormwater is included in as part of the town acceptance here.
And
oh, Craig, you're muted. He may be able to opine. He did more of the planning board end of this project. So,
as far as I know, yeah, that's why we didn't need the homeowners agreement
for the planning board. Okay. I think that's probably more of a planning board. Because I assume that's all through the planning board approval and the stormwater permit that was talked about, the homeowners association.
Yeah, and this was kind of this was already a roadway of sorts with multiple lots on it. It was kind of funky the way it was originally developed, but this wasn't like a brand new subdivision and brand new undeveloped land. This was already kind of a roadway of sorts that was basically improved to meet up-to-date zoning requirements and planning board standards for the whole property. And that's where the stormwater was added in to kind of bring the project up to snuff, where this road didn't have any stormwater maintenance until it was improved.
in the other crossings of driveway. So I mean, that would be covered under the owners of the driveway.
Yeah. Judy, maybe you could check in with planning board just to see if they're on that. Good with it?
Can do.
For us, I think it's just more of a maintenance, making sure things are taken care of, catch basins, whatnot, so we're not getting, pollutants and stuff into our wetlands. Yeah, it's getting late. Does anyone on the commission have anything in particular you want to highlight here?
I would happily take the vernal pool data for the one on town land if you want to send that over.
Absolutely. Glad to provide that to you, Judy.
Mode pass upland route. I guess, where are we? So you have Joe. So Joe has comments. Did you respond to all of Joe's comments? I'm sorry, I didn't.
So we didn't. Several comments that Joe had. I mean, they were more like, this is the information that I'm seeing, and there's a question of compliance with the vegetation for. So, for example, this order is from 2019. There were no requirements as to vegetational survivability in terms of the replication and the reforestation. So we didn't have a density planting survivability requirement. We had a vegetational coverage requirement. So we know that. It seems like that this area is definitely wild, a lot more wildlife than maybe some other areas, and so we had some more browsing by the wildlife. So we don't believe we need more plantings out here to comply with the original order of conditions. I do understand the concern of the mowed paths. However, that is just it's a grass area that's fully stabilized. There's no erosion happening, and that grass is just going to reestablish and naturally convert to field just as nature has, and there's no invasives necessarily in those mowed paths. So, and I think, Craig, you may want to actually opine quickly on the invasive species comment, because I think you actually gave me some more information actually on our call today about the fact that you've been out there actually since Joe went out there and actually did some more management.
Yeah, I know the exact spot that he's talking about that was inside our mowed loop. That there was a little bit of bittersweet. I did pick that. It's one of those weird things where bittersweet, all of a sudden there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden there's a whole big bunch of it, and I was able to grab it just before frost this year, so I did pick that corner out pretty clean myself. And that was one of the reasons for that mowed path. The one down the middle was because we had enlarged that replication area at one point, and that was the then the donut around it, that sort of kept the bittersweet that was on the outskirts of it, that sort of kept it down, and it just made it easier for us to go and picking at that. And I don't think we were even tasked with getting any of the bittersweet out. And it was all just knotweed was the only thing I think we were tasked with, and we sort of went above and beyond there. And I'm happy to keep working on that invasive stuff too. I drive in there every day, so if I see it, I'm happy to pick at it, and I'd like to keep picking at it if I see it.
Yep.
I wouldn't like to be prohibited from taking out bittersweet if I was able to.
No, we definitely appreciate that, and you can take as much of it as you want. I think in order to move this forward, Mark, if you could just respond to Joe's comments so that the commission can, feel comfortable with some of these things. So we were talking about functional requirements in regards to the tree mortality, if the functional requirements are there, the upland reforested area below the replanting numbers, but is that, functioning properly? If you can put,
I can put some
if you
stuff
can
in
address
writing.
that, and then
I
the
can put some
commission
stuff in
can
writing just so
digest
that
it.
way you can have that information. Again, we there is some. It's starting to function the way we intended it to. It takes a long time for these things to establish sometimes, and so in terms of that, our response will be basically we believe that the areas are developing and functioning. And again, in terms of what requirements there was no performance standard in terms of planting survivability here. So that's and it seems like we've got a lot more wildlife that's been browsing our plants more than usual. And other than fencing in the whole area with a nice big tall chain link fence, its nature is kind of naturally working itself out. And I think the key thing that's been established here is we have now a native area that's clearly native, and it's restoring and coming back, and nature does a great job at restoring itself, often better than we can do. So yeah, I'll provide that stuff in writing just for that, and we'll get that data, Judy, to you about the vernal pool, and talk to Natural Heritage about whether or not we can get that other vernal pool certified. And we could also circle back with the planning board as well while Judy does her side of the channel.
Oh, can I say one thing about the reforestation area, just to add to that, if I could? If you look on the other side, and people may overlook it, but it was also part of the reforestation area where the house was. I think everyone's focus is on the area adjacent to the wetland replication. But if you look where the house was, like that has done awesome on its own. There's oak trees there, and there's literally hundreds of them. And I had moved some of them around, but I mean, that side's popping. I don't know if it's the wind or what it is, but that side's doing awesome, like on its own. Where we call it the meadow where the car was, that is that was a field that had the bittersweet was popping up, and that was definitely tough, but I think it looks awesome. And if you look in there, there's trees, there's shrubs. To me, it looks great.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good feedback.
Whatever it says on paper is one thing. I encourage you to go look at it. It looks awesome.
All right.
You can drive right in and see it from the car, actually, a lot of the areas. So it's very easy to access. It's plug in 120.
I was really hoping we could close this tonight. I mean, I know that everything moves at a glacier speed, but I feel like we've been going on back and forth for years, and like every time there's like something new, like with this vernal pool thing. I know that's not new. We've been there since 2019. And it doesn't make any difference to the project whether it's a vernal pool or not. Like, why do I have to be burdened with that in a sense? I guess I'm not understanding how that can hold this up. That's a frustrating point to me.
I'm not Joe, the vernal pool certification, how does that tie in with the
Well, it was a requirement of the order of conditions was that, and it's one of my last comments actually. We noted that it was not clear in special condition number 109 which vernal pool or pools were being referenced as requiring certification.
Okay.
So it's not specified in the order of conditions which pool or pools were required for certification. It just says vernal pool. It just required that the applicant attempt to certify the vernal pool.
And to be clear, there's only 2 vernal pools on site. One's off site. We can't certify off site wetlands for certain vernal pools. And we'll provide the data to Judy. And the 2 on site wetlands vernal pools, one's already been certified. The other one is the one we didn't provide, that we couldn't get the data. So we've attempted to collect the data. We could not provide the data, and that's kind of the situation we're in. So we feel we've tried, and the nations are glad to let the commission go back this spring and try again. But our biologists are kind of on the grounds that, you know what I mean, unless you like play the game of when you go out there, and if you can find one salamander swimming around that may not even reach full viability and call it a vernal pool, versus actually looking for enough egg mass to say there's actually a lot of activity here. That's kind of that from what our biologists kind of came across. So
through the chair, I did not look specifically at those vernal pool areas. When I looked at it, it was, dry anyways, but based on Mark's description, I certainly, understand what he's talking about with respect to those types of vernal pools that are very borderline and may have some limited use.
Mm-hmm.
I think the question we just presented was, whether or not enough investigations were done to definitively say it was not certifiable, or, looking at the facultative species method. I think in favor of their conclusion, they did go out there, I think 6 different years. I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years of monitoring at that location, and did not have sufficient evidence in any of those years, even though it was only 1 inspection a year, apparently. So, I raised the point that maybe not enough inspections were made, but based on what Mark is saying with how that vernal pool looks, it's understandable that it could be a very borderline area that may not support sufficient species for certification.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. So we could essentially come to the conclusion that that's just a potential, and we're not identifying it one way or another. And if something happens in the future where this comes in front of us again for some other, I don't know, reason why there would be more development, but it would have to be relooked at potentially.
It's protected by your bylaw because it does meet your bylaw requirements for a vernal pool, and that's been documented in our monitoring reports. So it is protected under your bylaw. It's just there's no mechanism under your bylaw to certify locally a vernal pool and put it on your GIS, I guess. But it is protected, and that's the way this project was designed, was to protect that vernal pool in that same nature. So that's the situation we're in again. In terms of that, and so we'd request some that we've done our best. We could have gone out 10 times a year, but we did go out every year. We had multiple biologists look at it, and we don't think it's really a very largely functional vernal pool, and that's why the activity's been as low as it has been since 2020.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I think my opinion is that if we could just get the ends tied up by your response to Joe's memo, so we have something on the other questions, that would make me feel comfortable with issuing a COC. at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah. We can definitely provide that, just that clarification. That way you have it on record that we did respond and therefore everything was at least covered in terms of that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have to vote to continue, so.
We appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, 30 West Main Street project change request. We have someone on the line for this?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Good evening, Commission. For the record, my name is Casey Birch. I'm a senior project manager with Solely Engineering. Office is out of 11 Vanderbilt Avenue in Norwood, Massachusetts. Sorry about the brightness. Unfortunately, my colleague Sam Malafante, who you guys have dealt with in the past, he's on vacation this week. So I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant to discuss some modifications that we would like to pursue to the previously approved single-family residential development located at 30 West Street. So since the approval, our client has been coordinating with the project architect, obviously to advance this building permit process. And as part of that effort, the architect revised the originally approved box style layout of the building and has developed into like more of an aesthetically refined building footprint, as you can see here. In accordance with your ordinance, any changes that were made to the plan, we obviously have to come back to you to formally present and explain these modifications and to receive your input on the proposed changes and what we need to do moving forward. So I have some numbers that I'll spit out. So the original house was 3,696 square feet footprint. This one was revised to a 2,935 square foot footprint for a reduction of 761 square feet. The garage in this one got a little bigger. It originally was 766 square feet. It's now 950 square feet for an increase of 184 square feet. The asphalt area, as approved, was 1,553 square feet. We're reducing that number to 1,390 square feet for a reduction of 163 square feet. And then we're removing on the side of the house, there used to be permeable paver walkway. We're removing that completely. So that's a 332 square foot removal. And then we're adding a deck in the back, a wood deck, a patio area in the rear there that's 495 square feet. So overall surfaces, we did reduce about negative 251. So 251 square feet of reduction total. Some other modifications that we made, we just, just to let you know that the distance from the house to the nearest wetland, that stayed the same. We're using the same edge of the house. And then our proposed leaching area shifted about 4 feet over, but the limit of disturbance total, that outer edge, is the same as the approved plan. So pretty much the only difference is we moved the garage around and we carved out that 700 square feet in the back for a little alcove area. But everything else is essentially the same, with no more encroachment.
Okay. Judy, do you have the sheet that shows the previously approved footprint on top of the proposed or revised? I think that
I do. If you don't, Judy, if you want me to share.
Was that submitted as part of the request?
I believe we did submit. It was a red overlay.
Yeah, I think I have that.
Okay.
That helped me just kind of understand the limits they're working within for these changes.
I'm not sure if I do. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the red is everything new. And we put that over the black. So as you can see, the garage shifted. That paver area along the side that I referred to, the 300 square feet, that is removed now because that's not on the red. You'd see a red overlay if that was the case. But our limits, our silt fence, our limits of disturbance around the edge, it's exactly the same as the approved. And you can see the leaching field shifted over a little, just to provide the appropriate distances from the house in the garage area.
Okay. So I know in when we approved the plan, we went to extensive, discussions on maintaining the limit of disturbance regardless of what comes forward with changes, and it looks like you've done that and maintained kind of the footprint area of the house where the garage is. One of the concerns that jumps out at me though is in rotating that garage there, what kind of maintenance does the septic system need? And what's the plan to get a truck back there to pump that septic tank? How are they going to do that?
Yeah, so the end garage here will have a garage door on the backside as well. So there will be a clear path for the one furthest out. So coordination with the homeowner would have to be done for a truck to go through that, and pumps can be put because pumps can be distributed that way, and then they leave out that way.
So like a full size.
Yeah, on both sides. The garage door will be overhead on both sides. Correct.
Okay. And I guess a septic pumping truck can get through a regular sized garage door.
Yeah. They have other means to do it too, but they could also just have a longer pump as well to their tanks. I have the similar situation actually in my house where they can't get to my backyard, so they use a long hose to get in.
Okay. All right. And the deck, do you have square footage on the deck?
Yeah, it was we have a number of 495 square feet total.
In that, because that's not included in your table calcs, right?
Oh no, it is. We have it at the bottom. It's below the permeable paver walkway.
Judy, if you scroll up a little bit, I think it's got a table.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess it's not. I had it on the one that it was sent to me. Apologies. Sam sent me. We have an updated one because Sam sent me one that has the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, and then and below it he puts he puts net impervious area, then net permeability, and then he put net wood deck below that too, and he put plus 495.
Okay.
And then I added that all together, and it really comes out to a negative of 251.
Okay, that's where I was wondering where your 251 came from. Okay. All right, that's enough of my questions. Others on the commission, do you have questions, comments on this?
I do, Melissa. It is so late, but I have a quick question. I've never had a septic system, so I don't know how often these things happen, but it seems to me pumping out a septic system might be a different job than if something goes wrong with the septic system and they have to dig it out. Maybe these garage doors are big enough for larger machinery to get out there to do bigger work. It really, really, really gives me pause to have no access to the back except through standard garage doors. The other thing that gives me pause is permanent work inside the riverfront zone, whereas before it was going to be temporarily disturbed and then put back. So that's it. But it's so late. I don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah. Anyone else? I share on the garage, just not having access to the back yard is just is a concern from the commission's perspective, because usually when this happens, we see people being in a situation where they need to get a vehicle back there, and then they're coming in asking to clear trees and a path, then around that garage, to get to their backyard. Maybe a 2-car garage would be sufficient and provide.
Oh, it is a 3-car garage right now. That access is only through the top one, which is so it goes straight through with another overhead on the other side.
Oh, this is Ed to the chair.
Yes, Ed.
To Ted's point, if you had to get a backhoe through a standard garage door, I don't think it would fit. So are we talking standard garage doors? Or are we talking oversized?
I believe the applicant's on now. I believe they're standard, right? Oversized would be you're talking about 14 feet.
Oh, I would say I really appreciate this concern. So for that scenario, I can definitely build a garage with the extra oversized garage door. I can, instead of doing 3 separate doors, I will see what the structural engineer will allow me to do. If not 3 doors all connected into one big opening, at least do 2 within, connected without anything separating them. Also, considering this very important feedback, I think at the back, instead of having 1 entrance, I can do, actually the back will be just identical garage door opening as the front. So the truck can go through the garage without any issue. And also I can do research about the height of the truck if something happens to the septic system, and build the garage with enough height, because there's no house above the garage. I can easily make the opening tall enough to fit the truck. Yeah, this is very, very important feedback. Yeah, the reason why I want 3 cars, because we are moving in and we do have 3 vehicles. So it's kind of, but I think we can do a cut through garage door, like just on both ends identical.
Okay.
Through the chair, if I could just say, I encourage you to consider maybe one of the cars does not get a garage so that there's real access to the back, that 2 cars get a garage spot and 1 does not. I encourage you to consider that option.
Okay. All right. Oh, why would you
Melissa,
Yeah.
Yes, Jim.
I was just saying, I agree. Going through the garage, front to back, sounds like a great idea, but I could see some issues in not being able to get around the garage. But if you want to look in, applicant, to putting large enough doors, it'll definitely have to be higher than they are now. Look into that and come back.
Okay. Other question is is this septic system approved by the Board of Health, or you still gotta go through that step?
I know that Sam has coordinated with them and has gone through all their comments. I'm not sure if he's gone in front of them yet. I can definitely ask that, but I know that we've had several comments that that we've addressed.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty comfortable with this footprint and this design as being approvable?
Yes.
By the Board of Health. Okay. Okay. All right, so I think what we're looking at now is this is being presented as a project change request. Is the commission okay with looking at this as a project change request, or are we looking at the route of an amended notice of intent based on the scope of work? I think my gut is telling me they're working within the footprint that we previously approved. And the impervious area seems to be or is shown as being consistent with what was proposed before or a little bit reduced. So I think I'm okay with the project change request, although Ted, you did bring up the point about the septic system in the riverfront area and whether that changes anything. Once it's said and done, it is buried and part of lawn, which is what it was before, lawn area, but you do have permanent structure underground, so I would be interested in thoughts on that. If anyone has any.
I would be interested to hear if Matt has thoughts on that. I often look to Matt for help in thinking through these things.
Thanks for putting me on the spot at 10:40 p.m. Yeah, I mean, there's a change. We've got permanent structures in the riverfront area. Whether or not that changes our approach or makes us reconsider, some additional mitigation plantings over in that area, I think that's certainly open for discussion. To Melissa's point, right, it was approved as lawn. It's still going to be lawn at the surface. The performance standards allow 5,000 square feet or 10% of the lot within the riverfront area to be developed. This is on the outer riparian zone. So I think there's merits to a project change discussion. I do recall, when we approved this, there was some talk about, changes would likely require an amended order. Seeing these changes, I don't know that necessarily rises to that level. So I can see where Melissa's coming from for sure. But I'm with other commissioners, and the lack of access to the backyard is a little concerning. And having a septic system, I get, yes, you can run a line back there and pump the septic tank out, and that's all great and fine for your annual or biannual tank pumping. But if you ever have to get back there for any type of work, not just septic related, any work on that property, you're constrained. And that's where it comes into, we want to cut these trees down to get access to the backyard. Whereas the original approval had access to the backyard. That's the change that I think is more concerning than the septic system, clipping the riverfront area.
Through the chair.
Yes, Ted.
One other thought I have, although it's not necessarily under our purview, but it strikes me that the fire department might be interested in this plan, given if there's a fire on the back of the house and a truck and a hose can't get to it. That might be something that the fire department might want to weigh in on as well.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Ted, because right now you really only have access to one side of the residence with a truck.
Yeah.
You don't, I mean, you have indirect access to the front. You would have no access to the back on the left side of the page or on the bottom side of the page.
Okay.
So that's a good point. I'd be curious to hear what the chief thinks about the new building.
Yeah, I thank you. I think I will definitely consider Ted's recommendation, putting one car outside of the garage, just doing two. That way, we hope if that way can solve the issue, then yeah, let's do that way.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, I think this is good discussion. And if you do that, work through with the Board of Health, I think that we can just address this with a project change request and not have to go through an amended notice of intent, which makes things easier. Good. Does that was that your intention for tonight, to kind of get that kind of feedback?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay.
Because obviously, if we didn't figure that out tonight, and then we came back to you guys, and then you said we'd like a amended NOI, we wasted time. So I'm glad we're getting this out of the way now, because we can definitely proceed with updating the plans and getting you guys a full plan set.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you for hanging on late at night.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you all.
Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Being that it is 11:15, I think maybe we want to skip the conservation minute. Judy.
You read my mind, Melissa.
Yeah, send an email.
Yeah, you can send an email.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Yes.
I just want to publicly sing Ted's praise for catching that about a fire truck. I mean, it's like totally outside of our sort of purview and everything. And we're thinking about septic systems. Excellent call.
Thank you, Ed.
I second that.
Thank you. Melissa, could I do something super quick? It's so late, I want to go to bed too.
Yeah.
Joe, before I lose you, I like to try to make sure I'm pronouncing people's names correctly. Is it Orzel or is it Orzel?
It is Orzel.
Orzel. So we've been doing it right the whole time, but nobody could confirm it for me. So I wanted to make sure we were doing that right. As long as I'm reading the script, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing names.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. And happy holidays. See you all in the new year.
Don't we have to have a motion?
We do need a motion. Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, Ed?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ted?
That is an aye.
And I am also an aye.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.
Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays.
Christmas and everything else.
All the things. Yep.
Thanks again.
See you in 26.
Bye.
Bye.